on like one of the nights where they have like a big dinner and they have like a band play. And there was this amazing female group that plays all these rock anthems with just string instruments. And it's brilliant, right? And I took video of it for it was like a 4.5 minute song. I was thinking about this. I haven't watched it back.
No.
And I probably would have enjoyed it more just simply sitting there watching them perform these amazing songs rather than this video.
I'm fine with a 30-second video during a 2-hour set. I get that. If it's your favorite song or something, and you're like, you know what? I want a nice little clip of this for my memory. Just a clip.
Yeah.
You're not listening back to the whole thing?
No, I haven't done it. No, I don't even think I've sent it to anybody. Maybe I sent it to my brother, and I was like, hey, check this out. This is amazing.
And you know he did not watch it. He maybe watched 12 seconds of it and go, oh, yeah, dude, that's pretty cool.
Unless it was his favorite song as well. You think about it. That's what I do. I record a favorite song. I send it to somebody who has the similar interest.
Yeah, it's true.
And I'll be honest, I watch him back. I will go back through and go, man, it pops up on your memories, and you go, oh, that was a great concert I was at.
What are the pictures for?
Sound quality.
Like when Lebo will say, like, hey, I was at this concert, and then you can show, and it's awesome.
Yeah,
it's like, okay, cool, I was there, I saw it. But it's like, other than that,
well, like
Deanna, for yourself.
Deanna Rose has the light show for Christmas every year. Yeah. I always, the first time we went there, I videoed the Star Wars theme of Darth Vader that they do there. So I videoed that whole thing and then sent it to my brother because he's a huge Star Wars fan. I remember that. And and then when we got together again, I made him sit down and play it, so I knew he watched the whole thing. Like it was like, no, you're gonna watch this next to me. I'm gonna witness you doing this. You know, like my son doing his homework. I'm gonna watch you do your homework to make sure you're doing it. Did the same thing with him. He seemed to like it, but it was under threat. You know, so that's fine.
There's a picture of, I think it was Jamal Murray hitting a game winner either this year or last year, and everyone in the stands has their phone up.
Right.
But one guy who's just like a 90 or 80-year-old guy just enjoying the moment. And it was like a viral picture that went out. I think it was last playoffs maybe.
Didn't they have one that was like...
More like at a golf event, too. And he just had
that, too, yeah.
He had like 2 Coors Lights in his hand while everyone else is on their phone.
No, it was when LeBron was breaking the record, and Thomas Bryant was asking for the ball inside, right? Thomas Bryant's like, come on, ball. He's posted up. It's like...
He did have good position. I'll give Thomas Bryant that.
Thomas, you really think you're getting the ball there when LeBron's 1 point shy of breaking the record and he's going to knock down this deuce? And everybody's got their phones out, but like one guy is just staring and watching, and it's like, you know what, that guy. Although at that moment, I might have my phone out. I'll be honest with you. I might have had my phone out just to document that when the scoring record was broken. But Thomas Bryant had the best view of the whole thing. You know, I just love that he was posting it. Ball right here. Post. All right. Entry, kick out, repost. Exactly.
We have thousands of pictures of that, but 0 of Wilt Chamberlain scoring 100. Okay, I'm just saying, I have questions.
We have a picture of that.
Yeah, he's holding up the sign. Yeah, he's holding up the piece of paper where somebody wrote 100 on it. What more do you need, Sterling?
That's how I scored 100.
We have video of Bob Cousy dribbling, and we don't have video of Wilt Chamberlain's 100 points. That's all I'm saying.
I don't know what more proof you want. I mean,
he averaged like what, 50 and 30. I think he probably got there.
Yeah, because
he probably got it.
It was playing against everybody that was up to his chest.
Because there was that one game where he scored 0, and to average 50, you got to come back with 100. Mm-hmm. So, you know, that's why I think it happened. Plus, I mean, somebody went there, wrote 100 on a piece of paper, and handed it to him.
Who else would do that?
There's no reason for anybody to do that if he didn't score 100. If he scored 98, they'd be like, oh, you got 98. They would write 98 on it, right?
It still would be the record, would it not?
Yeah. I think 82 would be the record.
Yeah.
Even if he only had 82 with Kobe's amazing.
Well, but we wouldn't know that at the time because Kobe's didn't happen until,
I know, but we know that
50 years, a lifetime later.
Just as we know that 3 would have been enough for Seth Lugo to get the win on Sunday in the game versus the Angels. 913-3-810-810. Seth Lugo's ranks in baseball. This is unbelievable. He's got 6 wins, which is first. Pitcher wins, whatever, whether you like that or not, but he's, quality starting his butt off. 1.66 ERA, first in baseball among starters. A whip of .96, 10th best in baseball among starters. And remember how we talked about early in the season with Seth Lugo when he was inducing soft contact, but he wasn't striking people out. And we're like, look, this is a great start, but how sustainable is it if the guy's not getting strikeouts? The defense is awesome, but you're going to have to start striking some guys out. You can't get, 18 outs where 17 of them are put in play. There's going to be some things strung together where balls just simply find green grass and you get hit a little bit and some balls leave the yard. You may not have a great night. And so he had 1 strikeout to a 4 strikeout game, a 1 strikeout game. Since April 26th, his start on April 26th, until now, till May 13th, he has the most strikeouts in baseball, does Seth Lugo. He is ahead of Tyler Glasnow, Jack Flaherty, Pablo Lopez, Dylan Cease, Chris Sale, Tariq Skubal. He's got more strikeouts since April 26th than all of those guys does Seth Lugo. And it helps when you have the 12 strikeout game yesterday in his career high. But still, it felt like he's been building towards this, right? Like he had like a 6 strikeout game, then an 8 strikeout game, then a 9. Not in, order, not in consecutive order, but, it felt like he was just building towards this. And it's like, okay, this guy has now, since April 26th, in those starts, he's got the most strikeouts in all of baseball. It's been amazing to watch because this guy who throws 94, 95 and a fastball and 8 different pitches, that in today's game, because he's not throwing 99 or 100, is crafty. Look at this crafty guy that'll hit 94 because yesteryear's crafty was not somebody that could throw a fastball 94, 95 miles an hour. That was
Jamie
88,
Moyer
89.
was not good.
Yeah, 88, a cool 88 mile an hour fastball that you didn't time up because you were behind it based on all the other pitches. He's been brilliant, and doesn't it seem like he's just getting stronger as the starts are coming?
I think so. I mean, it's so rare to see this in baseball. We see quite the opposite of failed starters go and be dominant relievers, where Seth Lugo was not a bad reliever. He was actually a pretty good one at one point, but he also understood to make more money, I got to be a starter. And last year made a great transition, but I always believed the knock on Seth Lugo last year and what I think scared a few people or a few Royals fans away was he didn't work that deep into games, right? He was still kind of building up to be a long-term starter, and you saw a lot of 5-inning outings, maybe 6. And this time around, he's getting pretty much 6 innings, 7 innings, 8 innings every time he takes the bump. That won't go over the course of a long season, but 9 starts is still a decent sample size where you can take enough away and go, he ain't going to go from a 1.66 ERA to a 5.5. Now, I know that shouldn't be like just the mark. I think you would still hope that he stays maybe sub 3 at best. You hope that if he does go a little bit over, it's in the 3.2s, kind of like what he was last year. I think actually last year was 3.57.
Yeah.
But this is better than what you could have hoped for because Seth Lugo was kind of that guy that you thought, well, Reagan's is going to be your big swing and miss guy. I thought Michael Walker was going to be more of a swing and miss guy than Seth Lugo. But when you have a curveball that has a spin rate that can go up to over 3,500, you talk about the table dropping. I mean, we talk about good curveballs that can just disappear. That's what we saw with the Angels. I don't blame them for striking out 12 times. When you see the ball at some point, maybe letter high, and then it's already at your shoelaces by the time it gets to your bat, if it even does.
It's just wild because he does throw 8 pitches, and he just keeps everyone off balance. And that happens when you have a 4-seamer and sinker. Those are the exact same 93, right? But one's going to dip a little bit with a little bit of run, and one's going to be straight. So it gets people off balance. Because for him, soft contact's been the name of the game, and now he's adding in the strikeouts with the curve, with the slurve, with the slider. But when folks are batting 106 against your fastball, 114 against the curve, 143 against the slider, 182 against the changeup, no one's hitting him. You mentioned the whip. He doesn't walk anyone either.
No, he doesn't.
It's one of these situations where you look at where's the regression going to happen. He maybe giving up a little bit of too hard of contact. He doesn't get a ton of ground balls, but you're playing in Kaufman. So unless someone's really squaring you up, sure, you hit it 390 to center. That's an out. He's done a phenomenal job of pitching to the ballpark. He's in Anaheim. What do? I'm going to become a strikeout pitcher tonight. I don't have to strike out guys at Kaufman. I'll let my defense do the work. I go to Anaheim. I saw what Joe Adell's done the past couple games. And that's fine. Now I'm a strikeout pitcher tonight, boys. Like, the ability for him to adjust to where he's playing, to me, is very impressive.
We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll talk a little more Royals, and we'll get into a Chiefs and Ravens opener on Thursday night. Chiefs, for the 3rd time in this era, opening up on a Thursday night to start the season after winning a Super Bowl. We'll take a timeout, come back, more Zone next. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Jack Johnson, Dylan Michaels. We head up until 2 o'clock. Josh Kaiser will be our guest. One Royal Way podcast coming up at noon. We'll get into the top 5 free agent signings of Royals and Chiefs coming up at 11 o'clock. Inspired by the performance that we've seen so far this year from Seth Lugo. First in wins in baseball, first in ERA of the starting pitchers, 10th in WHIP, and the most strikeouts since April 26th in baseball. 6 more than the next closest guy because he has been really, really good. 913-912-4810. Concerns about Reagans at all? I mean, he's been a guy that there have been some hot and cold streaks to him. He's been dominant, and we see, all right, there's Cole Reagans. And there have been a couple of outings where you're going, who's that guy? You know, he got lit up for 7 runs in an inning, and Saturday didn't look all that great against a pretty porous lineup in the Angels, whereas the next day Seth Lugo goes out there and has 12 strikeouts against that particular lineup. At times he's looked like Cole Reagans, but an ace or somebody that's like, this guy has Cy Young potential, there's so much less of the peaks and valleys and the highs and lows that we've seen a little bit more from Cole Reagans. And maybe it's exaggerated from my standpoint because he goes to the mound and I sort of expect a 6 innings, 1 run, 8 Ks, because that's what you think of with your ace. And so he goes out there, 5 innings, gives up 3 or 4 runs, and it's like only a couple strikes. Like, what's wrong with this guy? What, why is he having such a bad night? Any concern about Cole Reagans, or this is just, course of a season and he'll figure it out and he's fine and he's got some of the best stuff in baseball and that's going to play?
Well, I think on Saturday that might have been on Matt Quatrero a little bit. I think his final line looked far worse than what it could have been. If he just would have pulled him after the 6, you're talking about 6 innings, 5 runs. Not good, but found stability after, the 3rd inning. He was able to cruise a little bit. But it also comes back to Cole Reagans has, never been a full-time starter before. Not trying to make excuses, but we might have been a little bit premature in the going from a really good end in the second half to he's going to win the Cy Young. I mean, of course he was a dark horse here, and he still has the stuff to win a Cy Young. But to me, I'm not concerned because the pure stuff is still there. It'd be one thing if we looked at this start against the Angels, fastball velo was down, command wasn't there, the pitches didn't really have the same horizontal run that they usually do. I think what basically happened is he got shell-shocked a little bit in the second inning, was leaving way too much pitches out over the middle of the plate. Joe Adell parked one, and then I think kind of in the same way the Houston game happened and the Baltimore game happened, once something happened in the field, which was MJ Melendez misplaying a ball, which a single turned into a triple, it kind of just spiraled for him. It was like, oh, now I'm just leaving 96 over the middle of the plate, and I don't care who you are, how bad of a hitter you are, you can hit that at the major league level. But I'm not concerned because it reminds me a lot of the way Yordano Ventura looked kind of in 2014 and 15, that he might have one of those bad starts, but the next time out it was still, he's got the stuff to go 7 shutout innings with 10 Ks. I mean, he's still throwing 98, 99, 100 with the hammer curveball. Cole Reagans, next time he takes the bump, which I think is Friday against Oakland, he's going to have the same stuff. Will he look electric? Who knows with that? But to me, with guys like him, I don't really get concerned by maybe a bad outing or 2 unless that stuff starts to diminish a little bit. And right now, it's still among the best in baseball.
I'm not worried, but I'm at least slightly nervous. I'm not to like the oh no, this is what's going on, but because a lot of the underlying metrics are still solid, although they're not trending the correct way. But the metrics for the most part are still solid. His fastball's been phenomenal. Folks are batting 181 against it, slugging 306. Fastball's been great. His changeup's been great. Folks batting 211, slugging 263 against it. It's the other 3 pitches he throws that he's been getting shelled on. His cutter, folks slugging 440 with a batting average of 400 against. That cutter is getting lit up. His slider, 333, 333. His curveball is 333, 333, and then his slider is 333, slugging 519. He's got 2 great pitches, but anytime he tries something else, which a lot of times has been his strikeout pitch, he'll go to the curve, go to the slider, it's getting shellacked. That pitch to Joe Adell was a 2-strike count, wasn't it? Wasn't it 1-2, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes, it was a 1-2 pitch.
It was a 1-2 pitch. that's what has me a little nervous. He's a strikeout pitcher for the most part, right? We will all consider him a strikeout pitcher where the strikeouts aren't coming. And that's what I said, was he tipping pitches? Because the Angels knew everything that was coming their way. Every single ball, even the outs. I'm with you. They should not put him back out for the 7th because he was getting hit hard. Even during the stretch when he was getting folks out, I'm like, okay, that's a great play by Michael Garcia. That ball is 98 off the bat. That ball is smoked. I don't know if he's tipping pitches, but there's at least an underlying part of me that goes, all right now, Cole, I need to at least see another good start from you because you can't just keep getting shoved like this, be a strikeout pitcher, and only have 2 good pitches.
He's been sort of what feels like really dominant or generic/bad. He was generic against Houston, where he went 5 innings, gave up 11 base runners and 3 earned runs in 5 innings, and had 5 strikeouts in the 5 innings. But again, 11 base runners against him against Houston in those 5 innings. He gave up 3 earned runs and worked around some trouble throughout that. He was bad against Baltimore. Just bad against Baltimore with the inning and 2/3 and 7 earned runs and 9 base runners in the 2 innings. And then on Saturday, he was below average with a line that looked worse when the 2 runs come in the next inning when maybe he shouldn't have been put back out there. But then there are 6 starts this year where he's been Cole Reagans. So those 3 starts, Houston and Baltimore and the Angels on Saturday, those 3 starts combined, he's thrown 13 innings and given up 17 earned runs with only 12 strikeouts. So fewer strikeouts than innings pitched. The other 6 starts for Cole Reagans, 36 innings and 6 earned runs with 45 strikeouts in that time. So that's where it's not necessarily concerning for me with Cole Reagans. He's been dominant, and then every once in a while he'll have an outing where it just doesn't look great, where it's just not working for him that particular day. The first 2 starts of the season, he was awesome. Then Houston was the generic game. Then he had the 1 start against the Mets where he went 6 innings, no earned runs, 8 strikeouts. Then the Baltimore game was pretty bad. And he had 3 starts in a row against Toronto, and then Milwaukee, where he went 17 and 2/3 and gave up 4 earned runs until yesterday. So it looked like he was, after that start against Baltimore, he was then rolling in his next 3 until Saturday, and he just had an off day and didn't have it and wasn't commanding a lot of his pitches that he typically commands and wasn't getting the swing and miss on a lot of the pitches that he typically gets. And he's not at a season-high ERA. He's close to the season-high ERA. His season high was after that Baltimore game, a 4.3. He's now down to a 4.22 with Saturday's outing. But my concern is less there because he's had 6 Cy Young-type starts where 36 innings, 6 earned runs, and 45 strikeouts in those 36 innings. He's also had some Royals pitchers of 2018 to 22 outings there mixed in as well.
What I think is interesting, and I think the Angels probably did this, his fastball run value. So this is his 4-seamer and his cutter. So I mentioned the cutter has been atrocious, but when you count the 4-seamer and cutter together, it's still at 84th percentile, right? His changeup, 88th percentile value this year. His changeup's been phenomenal. Guess where his curveball slider combo has been ranked? What percentile?
You make me want to say like 50th percentile.
I'll go 40.
First. It's the worst combo
okay.
in all of baseball. And so
I didn't go nearly as bad as my instinct said I should go.
Yes, your instinct was correct. Curveball slider combo has been the worst in baseball.
Wow.
And so if you are, and again, Brian Sweeney's been a great pitching coach. I mean, let's be real now. The pitching for the Royals has been much improved. But I wonder if the Angels just said, hey, either don't swing at the curve or the slider, or wait for it to be in the zone and you're gonna crush it, because that's what it seemed like. They had the game plan. Don't try hitting the fastball. Don't try hitting it. Don't even swing at the changeup. You're gonna look like a fool. Wait for anything else. And so there are gonna have to be some adjustments here. But that also gives me some confidence knowing that if you can pinpoint what the issue is, that's what it is. It's the curveball chain, or it's the curveball slider.
Yeah. Again, Lugo's been awesome. Michael Wacha's picked up a slider. You threw that a couple of times. Andy Rogers' report at MLB.com about Michael Walken, his outing on Friday. Looked pretty good. Let's hear Matt Quatraro before we take a break. This is on Seth Lugo's outing from yesterday. After the game, Matt Quatraro was asked, what did you see from Seth Lugo in the game?
A lot of the same, which is incredible. Just commanding the ball. You know, everything is right there, so they have to honor every pitch, and he changes it up so much and gets the weak contact early in the count. But to strike out 12 and only throw 110 or 112 pitches or whatever, that's really remarkable. And just the confidence that you have when he's out there. I mean, he just comes out and feels like he's in total control all the time.
I wonder if you could just take us through the thought process sending him back out there for the 7th and the 8th too, and obviously finishing with 112.
Yeah, in the 7th, you know, where we were in the batting order, how the 6th had gone for him, you know, felt really good about the 7th. The 8th, you know, we had been talking about giving him an opportunity to go, you know, and we were going to go hitter for hitter right there, you know, with a 3-run game as soon as one guy got on, but he really executed in that inning and, you know, finished as well as he possibly could have.
Giving him the opportunity because that's what he had deserved over the course of that, or just where your bullpen was?
Everything, you know. I mean, he's the kind of guy that knows how he feels more than anybody. And like we've talked about, he can get you out in different ways. So we feel good about the 4th time through the order with him in certain situations. But again, we aren't going to like run him into the ground. He gets an extra day off coming up. Last outing, he only threw 77 pitches. So all those things factor in.
How much of a pleasant surprise has he been? I mean, you'd hope he'd be good, but he's been like among the tops in baseball.
Yeah, I mean, we were counting on him to be one of the top couple starters we had. What he's done so far, I don't think anybody can bank on something like that run of starts for. But the way he's done it, it's really impressive, and it really hasn't wavered. So we're really clearly excited to have him in our rotation.
You mentioned the ability to mix pitches. What did you just see out of his curveball today that made it so difficult for him to hit?
Well, it's a really good pitch, and he uses it at the right times. He doesn't overexpose it so they get to see it too much. He breaks it out when he knows he needs that.
Talk about having to honor everything. I think he threw all 9 of his pitches. I mean, what does that mean to have kind of all of those and all of them working?
Yeah, I mean, that's...
No walks today, too.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I can't even fathom having 9 pitches to choose from, but the fact that he uses them and has the ability to locate them all, and they all do something. You know, a lot of guys will say they have a couple different pitches and they don't necessarily act differently, but his do. You know, when you're in the box and you see something moving that you're not used to, a lot of times you either put a weak swing or you just freeze on it and he gets a strike.
It's funny when Quatraro says, you know, we were counting on him being one of the top 2 or 3 guys in our rotation. You mean one of the top 2 or 3 starters in all of baseball? That's what you were counting on from Seth Lugo. In the bottom of the 1st inning against Mickey Moniak, he had the curveball with the RPM of 34.51 and 4.75 feet of break, not inches, 4.75 feet of break. And that was the highest RPM on a swing and miss this season, was in the 1st inning with Mickey Moniak of any pitcher in Major League Baseball, until the 5th inning when he struck out Kyron Paris at a 35.50 RPM and a 4.9 feet of break, almost 5 feet of break. Right now in baseball, on May 13th, Seth Lugo has the number 1 and 2 highest RPM pitches on swings and misses in all of baseball. It happened in the same game against the Angels in the 1st and then later on in the 5th. It wasn't like the beginning where he was just snapping them off. He had a 4-inning difference between those two. He's been unbelievable. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next. one game already that will be played this year. Well, we know the date. We knew the game will be played, but the date. Chiefs have a date with the Ravens opening the season on Thursday night. Chiefs installed already as the 3-point favorites over the Baltimore Ravens Thursday night football. And we get a reminder throughout the week in the game about what took place in the AFC Championship game last year with the Chiefs coming away with that victory against Baltimore. And we'll see where Justin Tucker warms up before the game this go-around. Really excited to see where Justin Tucker's warming up. Because if he's not warming up in the same spot, then last year he was just, as Travis Kelce said, if you want to be about it, then you warm up where the quarterback is throwing the passes and doing his 3- and 5-step drop.
Not just game one. All season long. We will be on the lookout because this is a gamely routine.
I do it every game.
Every game.
Really? Yeah, you're the only one, I guess. The only one that ends up getting in the way of the quarterbacks and everything. I guess you're the only one. Weird. So we'll see on Thursday night what takes place with that. But that'll be the first game.
The balls of being like the smallest dude on the field to do that. You almost have to respect it to an extent. You're like, okay, it's not some yoked guy who's going and like knows I can kick your ass. It's a guy like, I know I'm going in to the lion's den, and he still does it. Part of me is like, okay, that takes some stones.
Well, it was
I don't know, with 50,000 Raven fans behind it. You know, like,
and
if
they're not going to fight
Stadium,
before the game. You know what I mean? Like, for sure. And it was also the false bravado of the Ravens trying to like intimidate the Chiefs.
Oh yeah,
like they're the defending world champions, man.
They were
You're not
having
going to intimidate them.
Big old festival before the game. They had all these Hall of Famers coming
That's
out.
right,
They had DJ Shaq Diesel in the parking lot.
That's right.
Big party.
You had former Chief
Going to the
Terrell
Super Bowl,
Suggs,
man.
former Chief legend.
Super Bowl winner Terrell Suggs.
Just a formality.
Was Priest
That's right.
Holmes busy? Didn't want to get Priest Holmes out there too.
Ravens
Super Bowl legend.
Ravens
Priest Holmes.
legend Priest Holmes there for that game. Yeah, it'll be a fun one on Thursday night. Hopefully there's no drama surrounding the Chiefs on that night. I don't know how there would be at this point. Like, everybody's good to go, you know? Except for that wide receiver. Other than that, I can't see any drama on the first night.
Don't do it.
Is he sitting in Chris Jones'
Don't
suite?
do it. Don't even put anything into the atmosphere. Don't do it.
Well, you think it's all going to be fine by then? Roger Goodell's like, we're all good. Go play.
delivering all-natural food to Midwestern families since 1958. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Jack Johnson, Dylan Michaels. We head up until 2 o'clock. We'll talk with Josh Kaiser coming up at noon, One Royal Way podcast. Hang out with Mick Schaefer in the 1 o'clock hour, KSHB 41 Sports Director. We'll get some Learn Funniest Best with Mick Schaefer in the 1 o'clock hour. We talked about in the previous hour a lot of Royals, and we were discussing last week how good Seth Lugo has been. This was before his phenomenal start yesterday with 12 strikeouts against the Angels and 8 innings pitched, career high 12 Ks. We were talking about the best free agent signings in Royals history, and so inspired by Seth Lugo with another fantastic outing yesterday, we wanted to go through the top 5 free agent signings in Royals, and we went ahead and threw in Chiefs as well. I was thinking about whether or not we would just combine them and be like, all right, what are the top 5 signings in Chiefs and Royals history combined? But much easier to separate them and go that route.
When you told me that, I was thinking, and I go, let's
Are
do a
all 5 gonna
separate.
be the Chiefs?
They're all going to be Chiefs, and I
know.
was like, what are we just like top 3 Royals? What
Yeah.
just top 3?
How many free agent signings in the Chiefs do you get down to before you find a Royal in your top whatever 7, 8, 10, whatever it might be? All right, so let's go through. Do we want to do Chiefs or Royals first?
Royals is
Might as well do Royals.
Let's do
more
Royals
fun.
first.
This is more
Yeah.
fun, I think.
Let's do Royals first. Okay, we'll start with 5 because last time we started with 1 and Sterling got upset. So
Well, it just makes no sense.
I get it. That's fine. It does make sense. It's one of the 2 things that would make sense. Making no sense would start at 3. And then going
3
to 4
would be
to 5,
would be
then
better.
1 to 2.
3, 4, 5, then 2, 1. I would prefer that than going just from 1 to 5. You gave away the goods.
All right, let's go 1 through 5. Anybody want to volunteer to go first, or I'll go first, and then we'll each lead off one of them. Or Jack, you want to go first? I don't know. You were pretty excited.
Oh man, I don't know if I want to lead it off with number 1 here, but I'll go
Number 5.
anyway.
Number 5.
Oh, number 5.
Yeah, leading off with
Okay.
number 5. Don't give away that.
All right,
We're leading off with number 5 here.
What do you guys do? You guys have been the worst strip poker players. Like, you're just all of a sudden the first thing you take off is the boxers. What is going on here, boys?
I'm here to party.
I think I can.
I'm
have
not-
this.
I'm
Socks before stones, guys. Come on.
Now, I want to make it sure that my goal here is actually get a couple people to open their eyes and go, I didn't think about that one. So don't take this one to heart. But number 5, I'm going to go Ryan Madsen for the 2015 bullpen. And we're talking about pure value, right?
Yeah,
And
right.
What he was after 2014. I don't think
gotcha.
he had been effective or pitching at all for like the 2 years before that. He comes in and then he kind of takes Greg Holland's spot in the HGH role of not necessarily the closer, but the 7th inning guy. Wasn't great in the playoffs. Gave up the bomb to Carlos Correa and Colby Rasmus.
Right.
And Jose Bautista's game-tying home run in Game 6 of the ALCS. But Ryan Madsen was really, really good just for that 1 year in 2015. Then got paid, by the way. But I remember the story of his grandpa told him how to throw the changeup that basically created his career, and then he found it again with the Royals. When I look at value and how they found him in terms of pure scouting, I think Ryan Madsen falls on this list.
All right.
I love that one.
I like
that's
it too.
a really good
No,
call.
I love it.
I feel good now.
I love it. He wasn't even in my honorable mentions as well, so I love it. So obviously he's not in my top 5, but I love that choice. I'll go next. I went Omar Infante.
No,
right.
dude.
Even though it turned out to
No.
be
Vote Omar.
Vote Omar, solidifying the second base spot. He was awesome in the 2014 run through the playoffs. 2015 he was pretty rough. They moved on from him eventually, but after the White Sox general manager issue that was going on with the Royals at second base, the now White Sox general manager, I like the signing of Omar Infante, and the only blemish that I can think of on Omar Infante's record is the base hit off of Guthrie in Game 7 by Pablo Sandoval when Omar went to plant to throw and he slipped. That was the winning run, and that would have been an out. There was mist that was dew on the grass, but Every time I think of Omar Infante, I can't get that image out of my head of him slipping
And
while
that's
he's throwing.
still number 5 on your list.
Still number 5 on my list. I know.
I think most people forget this too. Omar Infante, I believe, led off in Game 7 when Bumgarner came in and ripped a single up the middle. And I think every at that point went, they're about to bomb Bumgarner.
Okay, here we go.
He's gassed. But
Short rest. Here we go. Yeah. No, there's a nostalgia to it with the vote Omar fun there. So
The
yeah.
Scoville level of that hot take is a ghost
Thank you.
pepper.
I love it.
That is.
That's what we're here for. Omar Infante, number 5 for me, all time, baby.
By the
Sterling,
way,
what's yours?
I will say Royals are hard, so I get it. I get number 5's not going to be an easy choice. I'm also not counting extensions in mine. Like,
No,
like,
no, they don't.
like,
No trades, no extensions.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
Salvi's extension doesn't count
Yes.
because that was going to be an albatross of a contract, and now him making $20 million is like, wow, that's pretty badass. He's like one of the MVP guys, and he's only making $20 million.
Yeah.
We thought $20 million this year, next year was going to be, oh, good God, you're carrying
Yes.
that guy.
So we're not doing extensions or undrafted free agents. Mostly that's that's for Chiefs. Like Brian Waters, for example. I can't, even though he was a Cowboy, he was a UDFA. Emmett Smith, Duron Chair. I can't do it.
Yeah.
Can't do it. Okay.
Emmett Thomas, you mean?
Emmett Thomas. So for that, number 5, Jason Vargas. Jason Vargas, if you put him higher, I wouldn't have any issue with. Started 74 games for the Royals, 3.88 ERA, 7.8 wins above replacement. Jason Vargas was a guy that I don't think people give enough credit to for how solid he really was.
No, I like that.
Yeah, Jason Vargas, number 5.
All right, Dylan.
Actually, the exact same one. Jason Vargas.
Wow, how about that? Look at you guys
Is he just going to copy me this whole time?
being all dumb.
No.
All right. Jack went first that time. I went second. Okay, I'll go first here with the number 4 for me on my list was Jeremy Guthrie. Jeremy J Guts number 4 for me.
Was he a trade?
Again, no, he was
He was a
wasn't
trade.
he traded by
Jonathan Sanchez.
He was.
Jonathan Sanchez.
You know what? I was going back between Guthrie and Vargas. I'm going to go Vargas then. That was
You're
going
done
back
with us now.
I was going back and forth with Guthrie and Vargas, Guthrie and Vargas,
he copied
Guthrie and
us now,
Vargas,
yeah.
Guthrie and Vargas, and I went Guthrie on that one. But so he was traded, and then they signed him.
And they signed him.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's right. And then they signed him. Yeah, I knew that. So Vargas, I'm going Vargas number 4 for me, just because it was an either or. I wish the coin flip would have come up different, because then I wouldn't look as dumb.
Yeah.
But par for the course. That's fine. Sterling.
Kendrys Morales played in 312 games for the Royals. Slash 277, 344, 476, OPS plus of 119 in his Royals tenure. Wins above replacement wasn't great because he was basically a DH, 3.6. But again, he was a vital aspect, middle of the order, right? That the Royals needed a middle of the order bat. He was that guy. Kendrys Morales was a huge impact player on those good Royals teams. So I'm going Morales at 4.
Dylan, you're next up. You're number 4 guy in Royals.
A random one. Jeff Francoeur. Just
Francoeur.
because we got
Frenchie.
the Frenchie nickname, and he was an
I like
awesome Royal. So no, there wasn't any playoffs or anything like that,
Yeah.
but I just love Frenchie.
Hey, it's your opinion.
There you go.
You can go with whatever you think.
What's really funny is I've assigned Jeff Francoeur a bat, and when he came to the Royals, there was all this hype, top prospect with the
Yeah.
Braves, and I get this bat, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be worth so much money in the future. This is awesome, Jeff Francoeur, future Hall of Famer, and now it's like, oh yeah, remember Frenchie?
Yeah.
Well, remember that guy? So now it's even cooler because it's like
And it's like, I got this bat. I'll give you $100. It's signed by Francoeur. I'll give you 75.
yeah, but now
He was the
now
4th
it's
best free agent signing per Dylan Michaels.
Per
So.
Dylan Michaels.
That is
That's
a
right.
high esteemed
now it's
praise.
cool.
Yes, that's right. All right, Jack.
I wanted to give an honorable mention before I gave this one, but he was only there for 32 games. We forget how good Jonathan Broxton was for like half a year.
So is number 4 Jonathan Broxton?
No, it's not.
Okay.
I had to get that. I had
Before
to
I
get
write
that
it
name
down.
out there before I go any further. I feel
Okay.
like I had, but then they got only Gregor Blanco in return at the deadline there. Number 4 for me, steady Eddie Volquez
Edison Volquez,
for
yeah.
the
solid.
2015 Royals. I think because he had to take the role of what James Shields left, that 2015 team needed a innings eater, you could call him, the number 1, and Edinson Volquez was that guy, not only in the regular season, but then basically became that for them in the postseason. They tried Yordano Ventura pitching in Game 1 of that Houston series in Kansas City, didn't pitch very well. And then we saw Game 1 in the ALCS. Eddie shoved against the Blue Jays, 6 shutout innings. Then Game 1 of the World Series. Then Game 5 on the road was still just as good. So to me, even though his career didn't end up as great in Kansas City, that was a huge responsibility coming off of James Shields.
All right, so now we go and we start.
No, how are we glossing over that Jonathan Broxton was an honorable mention for all-time
You
best
wanna hear?
Royals free agent?
Just
Well,
the picture of Tim, God, what was Tim
Collins?
Collins?
Tim
in one of
Collins.
his pant legs back in the day.
Yes.
Was one of the best pictures on the internet.
I mean, I just want to say this in 35 and 2/3 innings, right? And they should have gotten a much bigger return. Just hear me out. Hear me out.
We're hearing you out,
Broxton
man.
had a 2.27 ERA and 23 saves. He was only there for half a year. Like if you're talking just value again, they signed him to be a closer and was a really good closer.
Aroldis Chapman was not. Was
I mean, Aroldis Chapman might be up there in the top
HM
5. I
too.
mean,
That's what makes it so
Yeah.
hard. It's not trades or extensions.
I know,
or-
because the
or
Royals have had a
waiver
horrible
claims.
free agent
Broxton
moves.
has to. I mean, just in terms
Well,
of
Lucas Duda was busy. Like, there's not a whole bunch of. I'm not making
about
fun of you. I'm
Owens?
making fun of the Royals
I'm
because
saying,
they've not.
man.
What
yeah,
about Owens?
Garrett
Good
Hampson?
value.
Is Garrett Hampson on there?
it was good value. Good
number
value, man.
3, we start with you, Sterling. You're number 3.
Wally Joyner.
Oh, man, he was in my honorable mentions. That's great.
Wally Joyner from the California Angels
Oh,
to
yeah.
KC. He was great as a Royal.
Oh,
2
yeah.
seasons over 300. OPSing over 835. 3 of his 4 years as a Royal. Dude was really good in his Kansas City tenure. So sometimes forgotten. Wally Joyner.
Okay. Number 3 for Dylan now.
I will go Edinson Volquez for all the
Volquez for
reasons
you.
Jack said.
All right. Volquez for you. Number 3 for Jack.
Yeah, I'm just going to take one of your guys' answers here and go with Kendrys Morales. I think 15 and 16. Again, also what he was coming off of in 2014. Didn't have a full spring training, got hurt, was bad for Minnesota, and the Royals gave him that chance. So the same way they gave Hunter Renfroe this chance of a prove-it deal, but Morales did a lot more with it than Hunter Renfroe is doing right now. But still, I know a lot of these are going to fall in that wheelhouse of 13, 14, 15, but that's unfortunately what we're going to have to roll with.
Get a Wally Joyner in there, dude.
But you already took him. So.
Yeah, that's fine. All right. Number 3 for me is David Cone. David Cone won his only Cy Young with the Royals, and Ewing Kauffman trying to bring a championship back to Kansas City went and bought a bunch of different players and was upset about the Cone trade earlier from Kansas City and went and got David Cone. So he won winning a Cy Young with the Royals. So I'm going David Cone, third best of all time. We start with the second best. Dylan, we start with you. Second best signing of all time.
I will go Seth Lugo because I think everyone will go Seth Lugo
Wow,
1.
I love it, Lugo. You think people are going Lugo number
Been
1?
9
Wow.
starts.
I love that he's already number 2 for you. Hell yeah.
Jonathan Broxton has a better case.
I didn't want to put him 1 just because
Good for you.
I didn't want to
Way
jinx
to fight
him.
back.
I didn't want to jinx him. I do want him to keep going on this trend, and if he
love
does,
it.
obviously it would be 1, but I'll go 2. Just recency bias, prisoner
love
of the
it.
moment.
I love how scattered
All of it.
these top 5s are. It's fantastic. Number 2 for you, Jack.
Oh, man. I kind of feel like I have to go with – because Gary Gaetti was traded for, right?
No, he was a free agent
So he's
signing.
signing- I thought
you can use them.
He just signed 3
Okay, good.
consecutive,
3 consecutive one-year deals.
3
Yeah.
consecutive. Okay, then I'm going to go with Gaetti. I
Gaetti.
feel like I have to put him there in the top 2. I was wondering that because also David Cohn's a little weird too because he was
'Cause he
drafted
was-
by the Royals,
and
then
then
he came
traded,
back,
and then they
but
went
I think
and
we
signed him
can
as
count
free
that he was an unrestricted free agent.
Yep.
Royals brought him back, but I'm going to go with Gaetti here.
Gaetti for you. I like it. My number 2 in Royals history is a guy that's already been talked about, Edinson Volquez. For me, number 2, for all the reasons that we've discussed here already. But Edinson Volquez for a 2 years, $20 million to get the performance you got from him in 2015 and on to the World Series as well. So number 2 for me, Edinson Volquez. Number 2 for you, Sterling.
Gilmesh. Gilmesh, 100 starts, 617 innings.
Interesting.
The ERA wasn't great, 4.27, but his wins above replacement was pretty solid because he ate a lot of innings too. 10.2. He was the first First, in my opinion, like big signing growing up was Gil Mesh, and I think he lived up to it, right? The Royals needed someone who was at least solid. At that point, it was just, oh, look at these minor leaguers. Look at these guys who are coming out with 6 ERAs left and right, and then like, all right, no, let's actually get a guy. And they brought in Gil Mesh, and my favorite Gil Mesh story was his final year, he was either injured or not performing well, and he retired and still had money on his contract. He was going to get paid the $11 million, whatever it was. He gave it back. He goes, I wanted to earn that contract. I feel like I didn't earn it. And so he gave back that final year, which I thought was pretty damn cool. Chris Davis for the Orioles ain't doing that.
That's true. That's true. So your number 2 is Gil Mesh. And we come back around to Jack, who wanted to start with his number 1 anyway.
Yeah.
Jack starts with the number 1 in your book. Who is it, Jack?
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with David Cone here, but what I also want to say is that
Broxton almost was number 1 for you.
Broxton was knocking on the door. No, what I was going to say is with Seth Lugo, here's how I believe he can take that top spot. One, he doesn't need to win a Cy Young here, but if he gives you 30 starts and he's got a sub-3 ERA, and this team makes the playoffs, one, you can make the case this was maybe the greatest single-season turnaround we've seen in Major League Baseball history. We're only 40-some games into the season, but that's what I think Seth Lugo can go from right now, not on my list, to number 1. If he has the best numbers for a team that won 106 losses to making the playoffs, Lugo would have to take that spot from David Cone, but right now it is David Cone. I seriously think you can make that case. If it's 200-plus innings, sub-3 ERA, he is the workhorse of this rotation. I think he goes to number 1. I really think he would go to number 1.
I see so many bars around you because you're a prisoner of the moment, my guy. Like, that's one season. I understand what you're saying.
I don't think he's Dylan's more of a prisoner of the moment. Dylan's got him number 2.
Dylan has
He's got him too.
Jack doesn't even have him in his top 5.
Jack goes from he's not top 5 to number 1 with one good year. Like,
he could.
But maybe the reason your rotation was able to make a turnaround to go from 106 losses to making the playoffs, something we just don't see.
That's why I kind of put him too, because it's like Edinson Volquez came up to a team that was in the World Series the previous year. Seth Lugo joined a team that was almost the worst in baseball.
Volquez had the one great year in 2015. I would say Vargas had his all-star year, though then the numbers really didn't look that good, but 14 was really good for him. I'm not saying Lugo can only go with a 3.6 ERA and 188. He's going to have to be the 200 innings guy, the sub. That would probably put him in the conversation of top 5 finishes in the Cy Young voting. And that's where I think when you look at what last year's team looked like, and a big if there, he continues that trend. Everybody's going to be talking about Seth Lugo if the Royals make the playoffs, and those are what the numbers look like. Again, 9 starts is 9 starts. He ain't going to have a 1.66 ERA, but you finish top 10 in ERA, top 10 in innings, top 10 in FIP, top 10 in ERA plus. The Royals don't have many big-time free agent signings, even though that's 1 year. That's an absurd turnaround. And for a guy that spent his entire career basically as a reliever, I think he could make that jump to number 1.
Yeah, David Cone's my number 3, and he only had 57 starts as a free agent with the Royals in those 2 years he was brought back. He did win a Cy Young there. If you're talking about, having 30, 32 starts, 200-plus innings, finishing the top 5 of Cy Young award-winning, and being sort of a workhorse for a team that makes the playoffs, I think that's part of it too. In making the playoffs. Now, some of that is the strike-shortened season for David Cone and not having a few more. All right, Jack went first there. My number 1, I knew I'd be the only one with my number 1. Well, no, there's somebody else out there that might have him as number 1. My number 1 is Kendrys Morales, baby. Kendrys Morales. Sterling, don't look at me like that. 2 years.
You guys are bad at lists.
2 years, $17 million. There's the value that goes along with it, too. They needed somebody to step in for Billy Butler to solidify that. All he did was have an 850 OPS, 100 RBIs, over 60 extra base hits in the season, giving that power in the middle of the lineup for a team that had the best record in baseball. He was phenomenal against the Houston Astros. If they did not get past, without Kendrys Morales, I don't know that they get past the Houston Astros, as good as he was in that series. He wasn't all that great against the Mets. He didn't have to be that great against the Mets because they beat him in 5 and other guys stepped up. But Kendrys Morales, only 2 years, $17 million for needing that piece that sort of felt like final piece. And Volquez was part of it too, because they needed that piece, which is why my 1 and 2, again, this is where nostalgia comes in, because you won a World Series with those guys. David Cone is number 3 because they didn't even make the playoffs. So when you throw in the fact that these guys were part of World Series winning teams, and back in the day, there really wasn't free agency when you're talking about World Series winning teams for the Royals. So one of their World Series wins that had a number of free agents on it, 4 of my top 5 end up being guys that were on that 2015 World Series team. One of them not getting to pitch in Vargas because of the injury. But Kendrys Morales, number 1 for me, 2 years, $17 million. And the risk, because he was garbage in 2014. He was terrible in 2014. And they took a risk. They signed him to a 2-year deal, and he went and did that.
David Cohn's the right answer, Jack. You were correct. David Cohn's the correct answer. Yeah, it was 57 games. Dude threw 425 and 2/3 innings.
Oh, it was awesome.
In 57 games. 3.17 ERA. Over 14.1 wins above replacement in 2 years.
Yeah, he was really good.
He won a Cy Young.
He did.
The year he didn't even was an All-Star, didn't win a Cy Young, wasn't even included in the voting, threw 254 innings and had a 3.3 ERA. What? It's David Cohn. I don't think it's particularly close.
If they wouldn't have won the World Series in 2015, David Cohn would be number 1. But they won a World Series in 2015.
I get that, but
if the strike didn't happen and they went to the went to the playoffs and did some things there, and David Cohn, he'd be my number 1. But
you're doing a team performance versus individual.
I'm doing individuals that that were of extreme value to a team that went and won.
I get it. David Cohn was in phenomenal value. Dude was unreal.
Oh, he was awesome. I love David Cohn. The Cohn heads out in the outfield was great.
Yeah,
it was fun.
It's David Cohn, number 1.
Okay. Dylan, you're number 1?
Kendrys Morales.
Yeah, you're the man.
Let's go.
Hell yeah, Dylan. You do you.
Genius.
Am I taking
You
crazy
do you.
pills?
All the same reasons. Like, he literally made everyone forget about Billy Butler in 1 year. And he was coming off, 2 fractured legs.
Billy Butler OPS'd 700 in 2014.
He wasn't bad.
And he wasn't terrible. And then Kendrys Morales gets there and OPS is 850 with 100 RBIs.
A switch-hitting DH.
Yeah.
I have one last argumentative point. I do have
about
David
Broxton
Cohn
number one.
About Broxton number 1. Yeah. let me slide back in here. But you think about what David Cohn did for a workload before he got to Kansas City again. I factor in I think with your Kendrys Morales picks, it wasn't a sure thing. I think it was a sure thing David Cohn was going to be really good in Kansas City. I mean, he had tremendous success, so that's where I factor in. Yeah, Cohn had the best numbers, but it almost felt like if you got him there, he was going to be great. I think with Lugo and Morales, for my point of, would you have expected Lugo to be a 200 inning guy, top 10 in ERA if he gets there? One of the best pitchers in the American League right now. I know it's early. But that's what I think could be another factoring in point on maybe where some people could fall. Some people will say, as you said, Sterling, I mean, David Cohn has by far and away the best numbers. It's not debatable. But for their points, a World Series championship for a guy that was awful in 2014 and then had a 100 RBI season for a World Series winner. For me, kind of the same point with Lugo, where he was good last year, but how many innings did he get? 140-something? If he goes from 140 to 200 plus and somehow is the front runner or the spearhead, if you will, for a team to get to the playoffs after losing 106, I think that's why I could maybe make that jump. Whereas David Cohn, it was like, it would be basically equivalent for the Royals bringing in who was maybe the top free agent pitcher. Well, it was probably Blake Snell or Jordan Montgomery, who waited a long time.
Yeah.
But bringing in somebody he was great, maybe a Cy Young winner, he comes to Kansas City, he's going to be just as good again. There's not too much risk there, where I feel like the Morales deal, there was a lot of risk. If that didn't work out, Brandon Moss, we saw that happen. Hunter Renfroe, we've seen this happen. Morales, it was quite the home run deal, no pun intended, because of the overall value in what he was in 2014.
And in 94, I mean, the Royals were really good. They had the amazing 14-game winning streak, but even when the strike happened, they were in third place, 4 games out. They were one of the hottest teams in baseball, so maybe they were going to continue that throughout the rest of August and into September, and maybe they overtake, Cleveland and Chicago, and they, win the division. Maybe that happens. And if that were to happen, then I think Cohn would move up. But It's a World Series team and two pretty big pieces on a World Series team.
I'm just shocked no one had the 1 year of Harmon Killebrew. I am shocked that he's a Hall of Famer.
Surprising.
It's a Hall of Famer.
It is surprising.
No one wanted the 14 home runs of Harmon.
I'm pissed that Jose Offerman was traded for, not a free agent signing, because he would have been number 2 for me.
Benito Santiago and Juan Gonzalez, those like 12 games could have been on your list.
I had all of my honorable mentions had been mentioned in everybody else's top 5. Did anybody have an honorable mention that wasn't talked about at all? Besides Broxton, we already went through that.
I like that Ryan Madsen
I
and
need a
Jonathan
shirt.
Broxton.
Yeah, Ryan Madsen.
I love the
don't
Ryan
think-
Madsen one. That was fun.
That was a good one. That was a good one.
That was fun. Obviously, there's the nostalgia for me with 4 of the 5 being on that 2015 team. It matters. Sorry, it matters. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Let's look at the Chiefs and what Seth Lugo has done for this Kansas City Chiefs team. Along with the Royals, he's done some phenomenal things for the Royals, but also what he's done for the Chiefs. We'll talk about the best free agents for the Chiefs going along with what the Royals did with Lugo. We'll take a timeout. More zone next. It's NWHB. Jason Anderson with you. Sterling Holmes, Jack Johnson, Dylan Michaels. We had up until 2 o'clock. We'll talk with Josh Kaiser, One Royal Way podcast. We had our top 5 Royals free agents listed in the previous segment, and Sterling agreed with all of ours that his was wrong and ours were probably the smartest ones maybe that you could come up with. So I appreciate that, Sterling. We went to break. You were very complimentary of our list.
You guys
so
are bad at lists.
I don't think so.
We weren't that far off.
I listed you as one of my number 1 people I love.
That's a good
so you're right.
list.
I
That's a
am
good list.
I am terrible at lists. You're right. I just
Ranking Jason's co-host.
Sterling number 1. Terrible at lists, man. You have the worst
You know
list
what?
ever.
You know what? Every once in a while, though,
What?
find a way.
Yeah. Okay.
You dig deep.
You find one. A squirrel, blind, nut, looking for dinner, whatever it might be. You find a way to get it done.
I feel like blind squirrels would find a lot of nuts. Like, I feel like their sense of smell would be very
that what
high.
it- yeah,
I
that
feel like,
makes sense.
it's like superhero-esque almost.
Yeah, that makes total sense. 913-912-4810. Let's get into the Chiefs then. Let's go through the what we think about the Chiefs as they now play the Ravens opening night, Thursday night, NFL opener. Ravens visiting Kansas City, and they'll raise another banner and rings and all of that stuff, and the celebration of the world champs and the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's talk Chiefs here and go through our top 5. Jack, you led off that one. I'll lead this one off with top 5 Chiefs free agent signings. Number 5 for me is Marcus Allen, signing from the Raiders. I really loved the signing of Marcus Allen until he turned out to be a jerk. But he's still in my top 5, and I had to put emotions aside of his treatment of me as a 13-year-old. But that's fine. He's number 5 for me. Sterling?
Yeah, so again, I did not count UDFAs, so I did not count Deron Cherry. I did not count Emmett Thomas.
Yep, I didn't
Willie
count
Rofe
those
was
either.
traded for. Brian Waters, I did not count. Brian Waters was interesting because he was on the practice squad of the Cowboys and then signed, but I still consider that as like a...
Dang it.
Did you use Brian Waters?
I'm not going to give it away, but also another guy that was signed up the practice squad was Tony Richardson.
Yeah, Tony Richardson with the same thing, and so for me, I couldn't use.
I don't care if you want to use that.
If you want to,
I didn't do it either. I'm with you, Sterling. But if you want to, I'm fine with it.
If you want to, this was my caveats, not yours. So this was mine.
yeah.
So if
Fair,
people don't
fair.
hear Tony Richardson or Brian Waters and they wanted to get an argument, this was just strictly for agents, not UDFAs.
You're saying go play in traffic if they want to do that to you.
No. Well,
That's what it
don't.
sounds like you're saying.
I hope you're Frogger. And you make it across.
Okay, great.
Mine was also Marcus Allen for number 5.
Very good.
Yeah, so
Go ahead.
Oh, still no. I'm
No.
cutting him off.
No, you're fine. We were just going to go around in a circle, but that's perfectly fine. Dylan?
Number 5, I also put Marcus Allen.
Whoa, all right. How about that?
Because also I don't know if he only picked the Chiefs, but he just hated Al Davis so much that he chose us. Kind of Brett Favre, Vikings-esque. So
It was a great offseason with trading for Joe and signing Marcus, and it's like, all right, here we go. Put that defense with this offense, ready to roll. What do you got, Jack?
I was going to do Tony Richardson, but I do, on the fly here, want to change it up. I'm going to go with Juju.
Ooh, I
I
like
think
that
Juju Smith-Schuster, the value, again, we talk about
Love
value
it.
throughout the Royals thing and this one.
Love it.
1-year deal. Also, the first year after Tyreek Hill. They needed the number 1. He was coming off basically an entire missed season. It broke his collarbone or shoulder, whatever it was. He came in, and maybe some people mocked it of now he's going to be doing TikToks all the time for the Chiefs. Only missed a handful of games. I think it was 2 games he missed in the regular season because of the concussion against Jacksonville. I think if he didn't miss those 2 games, that's an 1,000-yard receiver and made an impact in the playoffs. They won a Super Bowl. We've talked about nostalgia. 5 feels like a good spot. If I'm going to go off the wall here and not pick Tony Richardson because of the practice squad thing, I'll go Juju
like
here.
it.
I'll go against the grain.
I like it. All right, there's our number 5. Number 4, we will start with you, Sterling. Number 4.
Anthony Hitchens. No.
I was already writing it down. I'm like, okay.
You're like, well, weird.
That's,
yeah.
Okay, well, that's fine. You know,
okay.
whatever you want to go with. It's
Priest
your
Holmes.
list. Priest
Priest
All right.
Holmes. We were talking about the Ravens, and won a Super Bowl with the Ravens, the backup running back.
Oh, they got to bring Priest Holmes out on opening night.
Free agent signing.
They got to bring out Terrell Suggs on opening night.
There you go.
The Chiefs bring out Terrell Suggs on opening night.
That's amazing.
Cheering up the crowd, showing off his Super Bowl ring.
They
would
should bring out Priest
be
Holmes, though.
Badass if he did that. That would be great. That would be awesome.
Bring out Marcus Peters, too. Just all players who played for the Ravens, dude.
Bernard Pollard.
Yeah, just bring them all out. Yeah.
Every one of them.
Priest Holmes at number 4. I mean, he was my childhood favorite player. The last name Holmes, obviously, but
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
it wasn't even just
Relation.
that. It was
Are you related to Priest?
the fact that he was jumping the line of scrimmage, the fact that
Mm-hmm.
broke the touchdown record before Sean Alexander got him, and I actually gave Sean Alexander a hard time for that. I met him. I was like, dude, thanks for just destroying my childhood dreams of having a Chief with the all-time touchdown record. He just laughed and goes, hey, baby, you're welcome.
You're welcome. You're welcome. What a great line. Alabama's finest. Dylan, number 4 for you.
I'll go Joe Montana. It's kind of same.
What was a
reason.
trade?
That's a trade.
Oh my gosh.
You're fine. You can go Joe Montana.
Hang on here.
We can go back to you.
Give me Frank Clark.
Frank Clark.
All right.
Also a trade.
Oh, you're right. Really stumbling.
If you get 3 in a row, you've got to buy us
You know
around.
what? Give me Brian Waters. I'll
Brian
put
Waters.
Brian
Okay, there
yeah.
you go. Yes. You don't need Sterling and Mike caveat. That's perfectly fine. Plus, you don't have to buy us around by getting 3 wrong. We do that in our fantasy drafts.
That's awesome.
You throw out 3 consecutive guys that are on a team, you buy everybody around.
Oh, and
Everybody
you don't drink, so that means I'll get 2 Rumplements then. Give me 2 Rumples.
You know what? Great. Now my Coke is on your tab. Thank you. That's awesome. All right, Jack, you're number 4.
Yeah, I don't need to take too long with this one. Marcus Allen, you guys already picked him for 5. I'll go number 4.
All right. My number 4 is Priest Holmes. That was my number 4, so Sterling and I on the same wavelength right now.
You have a great list so far.
I agree. I'm starting to question myself, though, because I thought my Royals list was really good and yours sucked. So now I'm wondering about this
You even
Chiefs
have
one.
Wally Joyner on it. Come on now.
Wally,
No
World,
Wally,
baby.
I'm out.
He was an honorable mention. I told you, it was nostalgia that came through with 2015. If 2015 was erased from the record books, my top 5 would be almost completely different, okay? Number 3, we will start with Dylan on number 3. Dylan, you want to go Orlando Brown, traded to the Chiefs?
No.
Okay.
I'm going to go Damian Williams.
Oh, I like it.
He is a playoff performer.
Yes.
He is a champion, and he is a big reason why we won that first one, I believe.
Love it.
So, yeah, Damian Williams.
Love it. Love that. Jack?
You know, prisoner of the moment has been thrown out a lot on this show.
Uh-huh.
But I refrain from saying Drew Tranquil. I thought he was.
He's going Hollywood Brown. It's all
Yeah,
for what he's going to do.
Not putting my neck out there too much. I'm going to go back a few years. I'm going to go Tyrann Mathieu in this spot.
Wow, that's
I
not
think.
prisoner. That's a
That's
good
a
one.
Yeah, I know. I went away from Drew Tranquil because my theme has been value here. But Tyrann Mathieu from that spot, going from one of the worst defenses, they fire Bob Sutton. Here comes Tyrann Mathieu. That maybe didn't end the best in terms of how everything went down between him and the fan base. But that one year, I mean, you would argue him and Frank Clark changed the heart and soul of that defense. Of course, Chris Jones was there. But the 3 of them together changed the identity. And Tyrann Mathieu was so outspoken, so vocal with that defense. He's got to be on this list, and I'll put him at least top 3.
Number 3 for me was Mitchell Schwartz. Just maybe the best right tackle in football for what he signed at 2016. So the next 5 years while he was there to go and bookend with Eric Fisher. So the Browns letting him walk after 4 years, and the Chiefs signing Mitchell Schwartz to one of the highest paid right tackles in the NFL. And the Chiefs saw what they could get out of Mitchell Schwartz and wasn't exactly fitting the profile of the longer arm tackles, right? But Mitchell Schwartz was a fantastic signing, and he was just brilliant for the Chiefs in his time until, unfortunately, the injury took place. And he finally missed a game because he played every single game, unfortunately, until he didn't. Sterling, you're number 3?
Yeah, Joe Tooney. That was a great one, by the way. Schwartz was a great one. Joe Tooney. I think at the time the contract, we all thought, well, how is he going to be on this list? I did take contract in consideration here. Just how Schwartz was at the time, like the highest paid right tackle. Joe Tooney was basically the highest paid guard.
Yep.
But he's lived up to that contract and then some. And now, as you've seen the contracts for guards explode, it's no longer that far out of line. Yeah, Joe Tooney. They needed some help in the offensive line when they revamped it. We talked about Tyrann Mathieu and how he revamped the defense. Joe Tooney revamped the offensive line. He's not had the best left tackles next to him, and he still found ways to get it done. Yeah, Joe Tooney for me, number 3.
I like that one. Number 2, we start with you, Jack.
I'm a little bit higher on Priest Holmes than where you guys had
good.
him on the list. I still can't wrap my mind around almost having 30 touchdowns in one season. And again, maybe that says more about at that point the Chiefs just wanted to pound it into the end zone more than throw the ball in the end zone. But still, I mean, first year with the Chiefs, over 1,500 rushing yards, 3 straight to begin his Kansas City career, and then again the 27 touchdown season on the ground. I'm kind of with Sterling here. Like when you were growing up, more so in the late 90s, early 2000s, mid 2000s. Priest Holmes and Tony Gonzalez is who you think of. But you either were a Priest Holmes guy, had his jersey, or a Tony Gonzalez jersey. I was one of those guys that had the Priest Holmes jersey, so I'll put him number 2.
Yeah.
My number 2 is Tyrann Mathieu, what you were talking about. I think Tyrann Mathieu solidified himself. The last year was unfortunate with the number of the business decisions that were made by Tyrann Mathieu. That sucked. I think they made a good move in walking on him and going and getting Justin Reed. But for the reasons that you mentioned, Jack, what Tyrann Mathieu did for the defense, how good he was, the leader that he was, I freaking loved Thursday press conferences. Wednesday press conferences when Tyrann Mathieu was on the team was Patrick Mahomes. It was the head coach and quarterback. And Thursday, it usually was a rotating player until it became weekly Tyrann Mathieu. Yeah. And it was awesome. He was so good, so fun to listen to, so thoughtful in his answers, and was just a great guy to root for. And Tyrann Mathieu, if it wasn't for number 1, obviously he's my number 2, so if it wasn't for number 1, he would be my number 1. But I think he was in contention for what he did and the money they paid him, and the fact that it was like, this guy's been on 3 different teams and nobody wants him. Let's see what he does for the Chiefs. He was fantastic for the Chiefs and all the different things that he did. So number 2 for me is Tyrann Mathieu. Sterling, your number 2?
Yeah, it's Tyrann Mathieu. You're having a damn good list there, Jason. Again, we've gone Marcus Allen, Priest Holmes together, and then it was offensive linemen. Yours was Schwartz. I was Joe Tooney. Then we both have Tyrann Mathieu. But yeah, he was the difference in that defense, the mentality behind it. Those first 2 years, the third year, again, he was not great. He was fine his third year. Maybe above average, even though he would not tackle that final year. Business decisions, if you will. But those first 2 years, he was the best safety in football.
I loved him.
I mean, he was unreal. And I think we're probably the same number 1 for that exact reason. But, Tyrann Mathieu, number 2.
All right, Dylan, number 2.
Yep. Tyrann Mathieu.
Tyrann Mathieu, how about that? Okay. And then we head back to number 1, and that's me, right? And leading off number 1, Lynn Dawson. Number 1, everybody, Lynn Dawson.
Yeah, it's Lynn Dawson.
So I was going to ask if it counted, right? Because it's the team moving over. So we're not doing any caveat here. Yeah,
no,
it's Lynn Dawson.
Cool. Okay, so we don't have to get into a discussion on that one. Everybody's got Lynn Dawson. That means, Sterling, you're in my lists are the exact same except for Schwartz for Tooney at number 3. So mine's better because Schwartz was better signing than Tooney. But I get where you're wrong about that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I kind of went with the rings. That was kind of the prisoner of the moment there for Tooney over Schwartz.
The only one that wasn't mentioned that I had as an honorable mention, maybe a prisoner of the moment, but it goes along with the Tyrann Mathieu. I put Justin Reed up there as an honorable mention.
Yeah, that was
I was just listing. I was listing a bunch of guys that I think are in contention. Then I went through my top 5. He didn't make my top 5, but he was one of the guys that
almost said the same thing for the reason of Tyrann Mathieu, that he kind of flipped it back when it started to fade as Tyrann's time.
Yeah, they went back to a guy that was doing some of the things that they got from Tyrann Mathieu.
It's a great call.
And they got franchise. 2 Super Bowls out of him.
I always thought Lynn Dawson is a little interesting because he was drafted by the Steelers, right? 5th overall. And then he went to the Browns. And this just really started the Browns' demise, right? Like, the Browns had Lynn Dawson. Like, you know what?
Who needs this guy?
No, thank you.
There's plenty of things that started that.
No, but I know.
They also let Mitchell Schwartz walk. So two of my top 5, the Browns let him walk.
Also became the Baltimore Ravens.
That's a great point.
But how
which then let Priest Holmes walk.
And then they won a Super Bowl.
Dude.
The Browns really just fumbling. And didn't trade. Just, you know what? Ooh. No, we're good. Lynn Dawson, we're fine.
3 of my top 5 had a connection to the Baltimore / Cleveland Browns.
Ran Belichick out of town and Ozzie Newsome. So
that's great. All right, everybody's got Lynn Dawson. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, wrap up this hour. Coming up next. We'll talk some Royals baseball. They take 3 of 4 from the Angels. They get ready for a set with the Mariners coming up tonight. Mariners first place in the AL West, 3 games above 500. Royals sitting 8 games above 500 through 42 games of the season. It's been an awesome ride so far. We'll see if the Royals can keep that thing rolling as they get ready for the Mariners. A good club, good ball club the Seattle Mariners are. So the Royals will need to play well.
They're looking forward to the challenge of playing the Seattle Mariners.
Looking forward to the challenge of the Seattle
Good
Mariners.
ball club, well coached.
Andy Reid's already looking forward to the challenge of playing the Baltimore Ravens. Week number 1, Thursday Night Football, Chiefs, Ravens. We know of one game, one date that's set so far with the leaks of the schedule release coming out Wednesday, Chiefs, Ravens opening the season. Kaiser, One Royal Way podcast, joining us here to talk some Kansas City Royals. Your second-place Kansas City Royals, a half game behind the Guardians. 26% of the season has been played, and the Royals sit 8 games over 500. The fourth best run differential in all of Major League Baseball. And again, just a half game out of the Guardians. Joining us now, Josh Kaiser. Josh, what's up, brother? How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Had a great weekend. Like you said, a lot of great baseball being played. And I'm actually in the future. So as of tomorrow, where I am currently, the Royals are currently leading the AL Central. I'm just going to say it right now. That's what I'm going to call it.
Where are you at?
Right now.
Where are you at in the future?
I'm in Kansas City. I'm
Okay.
just in my mind. I'm in the future.
Awesome. I love it. That's badass. And so back to the future we go, and the Royals leading the division. Tomorrow morning we wake up, and it'll be one of those, hey, raise your hand if your team is winning the division, and all Royals fans will be able to raise their hand. That would be great. Raise your hand if you saw this coming from Seth Lugo. Put your hand down. Put your hand down, everybody. Put your hand down. But my goodness, Josh, he's been fantastic. And we went through our exercise of the top free agents signed in Royals history, and part of it was inspired by all of it was inspired by Seth Lugo. But I was also sort of wondering, like, if anybody would throw Seth Lugo into their top 5. Dylan did, so I'm glad that happened. But Jack also got into a conversation about, hey, if this continues this year, it'd be tough to say that this will continue. Even only 1 year, he starts to move into top 5 free agent signings in Royals history. It is not a long and illustrious list, but what he's doing has been way above expectation, and it doesn't seem like, or does it seem like, Josh, in your opinion, that there's a flukiness to this, that there's a regression to the mean coming quickly for Seth Lugo, or is he tapped into something starting last year as a starter, and now he's just continuing what we saw?
Okay, I've got a lot of thoughts about
Yes.
this. I got to process and organize this real quick. Okay, so first off, omissions from this list. I've got one, maybe 2 big ones. Mike Moustakas coming back on that 1-year free agent deal after setting the home run in one season for the Royals. That being ignored by you folks was a big miss. I couldn't believe you guys did that. Another one, Lucas Duda, 2015 World Series champion that came to Kansas City, and they made it right and said thank you by giving him a low-value contract and then cutting him loose maybe
Makes
a month
sense.
or 2 into the season. Yeah, that was it. The other part, you got to address it there, is how just poor of a track record the free agents in the Royals history is wild. And it is what it is.
It is
Back to
unbelievable.
Lugo.
To your Moustakas
It
point,
is
though,
very funny.
we eliminated those that were re-signing and had already been with the Royals. So Gordon didn't count, which is why I had to take Guthrie off my list, because Guthrie did sign as a free agent, but they traded for him, and it was like, all right, well, he re-signed. That was what we talked about. I'm going to move Guthrie out, put Vargas in there. So that's why Moustakas wouldn't have been included, but he probably wouldn't have been included in mine anyway. So there, in your face, Josh.
Sure. Yeah. Dunked upon. Yeah, that was like a windmill dunk right in my face.
But Duda is a big miss. You're right. That was a nice little attaboy. Thank you. Tip of the cap to Duda for that throw. Amazing throw.
Yeah, appreciate that. Here's $750,000. Come play first base for exactly 52 games and then get away.
Yes, we give you half ring for
yeah,
being here.
That's right. Back to the Lugo point. Maybe and it kind of goes to your regress. Is there regression coming? Maybe the best part about this, my most favorite part about the Lugo success so far, is nobody can really point to why he's pitching so well. He's not, up until like recently, he's not really striking guys out. He's not really limiting hard contact. He's not really getting a lot of ground balls. He's not Houdini with like crazy extension that's really hard to pick up, and he does have 17,000 pitches apparently, so that's fun. But he just gets out. I mean, this kind of goes back to the Rays, idea a few seasons ago, was just get outs, and that's huge to it. And it's very fun to see the success come in a non-traditional way. Yes, it could kind of be pointed as kind of fluky, a little bit red flaggy there, but it is very fun to kind of sit back and see, like, there's something going on here within the organization that hopefully can be replicated. But for everybody on the outside, can't quite put their finger on why things are going well. So I think that is a good sign as well. The other part about this is Lugo's strand rate is 90.2%. So when he does get guys on base, they don't score. That is a huge, huge deal as to why his ERA is so low, and probably a good reason why it's kind of getting thrown under the radar at this point. But at this point, keep the good times rolling. Stop looking a gift horse in the mouth and just accept the good things when they happen.
Yeah, it's interesting. That leadoff double, doesn't score. That strand rate.
Yes.
You mentioned that strand rate. The first thing I thought of was leadoff double gets to third. That's it, because he got a couple strikeouts in the inning. And that's been different for him as of late. And he wasn't a guy early on that was striking guys out. And I was concerned about, the fact that so many balls were being put in play, whether it was soft contact or not. Eventually, somebody's going to get a hold of one. If, you're going 6 innings and recording 18 outs and 16 of them are outs recorded by the defense, that doesn't feel like it's all that sustainable, that eventually, those hits are going to start finding green grass and you're going to, have a rough outing. But he has been on a strikeout tear since then. And since April 26th, I brought this up earlier in the show when we first started talking some Royals, but since April 26th, he has the most strikeouts in Major League Baseball. He's got the guys right behind him: Tyler Glasnow, Jack Flaherty, Pablo Lopez, Chris Sale, Dylan Cease, and Tariq Skubal. And Seth Lugo is leading that list. He's first in ERA of starting pitchers all year long, first in wins, whether that matters or not, all year long, 10th in whip for starting pitchers all year long. He's been absolutely brilliant, and the strikeouts coming, to me, make me feel a lot better about the sustainability for Seth Lugo. If he was doing this and had the 1.66 ERA and, the .96 whip, but he was getting so many, balls put in play, and he goes 8 innings and has 24, outs recorded, and 21 of them recorded by the defense, I'd be concerned about that. But the fact that half of his outs yesterday were recorded via strikeout, it's showing, one, his ability to mix things up, his ability to just simply pitch. He's calling his own game, which is, fun to watch as he's just sort of locked in doing that. There's a lot more sustainability here. I'm not saying he's got a 1.6 ERA the rest of the way, but the fact that, his last, 4 starts, he's got almost 40 strikeouts has been, fun to watch.
And it makes sense because, he has 8 pitches. I can't even imagine stepping into the box against a Major League pitcher, first off, but then trying to pick up 8 different pitches and account for those at any given moment. And none of them are like, the hammer curve is great, but none of them are that sexy outside of that. But it's just kind of, it's killing you with variety, and I love that fact. It's really, really cool. It keeps hitters off balance. By the end of the game, it looked like Lugo was getting better as he was going into the game, and a part of that was getting a really bad lineup in the Angels. They're not good by any means, and they got a lot of injuries on top of that. So take everything with a grain of salt. But it looked like they were even getting frustrated not being able to pick him up, and once they finally did take him out, I think it took some pressure off of those guys. Finally, that dude is out. Let's just try to do something here. And to be the other side of that coin, the Royals have always been that young team that gets frustrated by not being able to pick up guys in the recent past. And now the shoe is on the foot at this point, and it's so fun to watch. So I think we all came in here thinking Reagan was going to be the Cy Young candidate. But the fact that Lugo is kind of pitching the best at this point. He's got the stats, and it's kind of hard to argue that he's not the best pitcher in this rotation right now. But the fact that they brought him in and added him to this rotation to be another blood stopper, if there's a losing streak going on, if there's a winning streak needs to be maintained, Lugo is still that guy that's been able to deepen this pitching staff, and it's just been a home run signing since.
How important it's one game, and opening day is always viewed as like a week's worth of baseball, even though it's just one game as well. But yesterday was only one game. But where's the value and maybe the importance you find in the Angels? They're playing one of the worst teams in baseball, and the Angels aren't playing well. They've lost every single home series this year. They had 5 wins on the season at home before the Royals came into town, And on Friday, after the Royals won Thursday night, on Friday I looked at it and said, look, it's not fair to put sort of a pressure on a team and go, man, you got to win 3 of 4 from this team. You got to take 3 of 4 in this series against a bad team because baseball happens. And that's what I said on Friday, though. I'm like, look, this team, if you're serious about, winning a division, then these are the teams that you have to beat. I mean, they went 6-1 against the White Sox, so they took care of business like they should have taken care of business against the White Sox. How important do you think that game was yesterday, just to know you're leaving Anaheim winning 3 of 4 against a bad team, as opposed to, man, how did you end up splitting that 4-game series against that team?
Yeah, I think that, and personally, I had the same kind of thought going on, especially after Reagans gets beat up the day before. Like, no way are we splitting 2 games against this team. We definitely shouldn't be, but it also seems like in the past, the West Coast road trips have always come back and really been a kick to the boys, the twigs and berries, if you will, in Royals history. So to see that kind of avoided in a bad team in a series that you should win is very encouraging in of itself too. But the fact that they went out to the West Coast and again responded to a bad game prior to the night before, that tells me a lot about what this team thinks of itself and kind of the swag that they're running around with. So even if it is a bad team, you got to beat them. You have to. I mean, it's the competitive ones, the ones that you're expected to meet in the postseason. Those games are supposed to be close because it's a good team versus a good team. If you are a good team that falls victim to the trap game or the trap series, as well, then something's a problem. So being able to avoid that was a pretty big deal to me too.
Yeah, and now they head to Seattle for 3 before returning home against the A's for 3, and the Tigers for 3 after that before heading back on the road in an interesting one where they'll play 7 games against the Rays and Twins. You mentioned Cole Reagans as we were talking about Seth Lugo and being the best pitcher on this staff this year so far as a free agent signing, and it's been one of the best free agent signings in all of baseball. But Cole Reagans, he's a guy through 9 starts this year. He's been very hot and cold, and a third of his starts this year, so 3 of those, he's gone 13 total innings with an 11.8 ERA and 12 strikeouts in 13 innings, and he's given up 17 earned runs in 3 of his starts. The other 6, Josh, he's gone 36 innings with a 1.5 ERA and 45 strikeouts in that. You don't like to see the 2 starts being amazing and then 1 start being generic or bad. 2 starts amazing, 1 start being generic or bad. You'd like to see more consistency. What are you seeing from Cole Reagans? Is this the getting ready to then go on a run of more consistency, or, first time as a full-time starter in a Major League Baseball rotation, and he was amazing last year ending the season? But is this maybe who Cole Reagans may be this year? And we were all out over our skis. And I'm not saying he's going to be a 4.2 ERA guy this year, but out over our skis and thinking Cy Young and things like that. Or the 6 of the 9 starts being incredibly dominant Cy Young worthy stuff is what we'll see more often the rest of the way.
I don't know. It's something I was kind of worried about coming into the year, and we were talking about our predictions episodes coming into the season as far as guys who won't meet their expectations. And I mentioned Cole Reagans potentially not meeting expectations because they're so high right now, and he's still, got plenty of volatility. The potential is there. I mean, you see it every pitch he throws. You're like, man, that is nasty stuff. And you hear the reports, the scouts, the coaches, the players, they hate playing against him, and it's all like validating everything that you want to feel. But there's also that part in the back of your head where you're like, man, is this real? This is plenty volatile. He's still a young player trying to figure this stuff out with an injury, history. So what is real and what's not? With Cole Reagans, it does seem like he, within the same inning, like it was saying, between batters, he can go from, unhittable, absolutely nasty stuff, triple-digit fastball, and then be completely hittable the next inning. It's very inconsistent at that point. So I think that it's more of a young thing, getting experience, trying to figure out what the best way when to trust your stuff at the right time and where to go against guys is going to be huge. So I think just with reps, as long as he stays healthy and gets those reps, he'll get better as we go through the season. So I don't see this being, a trend with him. I think he's only going to get better as a starter as the season goes and as career goes. But it is pretty interesting to see how good he looks 1 minute and then how hittable he looks the next. It is interesting.
Josh Kaiser, One Royal Way podcast, is our guest. So Major League Baseball and StatCast release all of this bat tracking information that they've had through the first quarter of the season. And I lost an hour this morning just going through that, and lost an hour in that. Like, I don't even know how to present this as conversation on the radio. If it was one thing that I was doing research or looking up different things, I was just so fascinated as watching it, I couldn't stop. So I'm looking forward to this afternoon wasting even more time looking up all of this crazy stuff. Can you glean anything from that? Because, again, I was just starting to scratch the surface of some of the things that were there and looking at Royals hitters compared to others, the swing length, fascinated by that. The fact that Vinny Pasquantino is leading all of Major League Baseball in competitive swings. The guy just takes a rip.
Yep.
If he's swinging, he's taking a rip. He's not going to be check swinging or getting off balance and have a slower bat speed to where he's like, oh, I'm out in front of it. I'm just going to sort of slow down my swing. He's ripping at the ball. That's fun to see. Bobby Witt's shorter swing with his fast bat speed, which there are a few guys in baseball like Corey Seager, Wyatt Langford, oddly enough, too, a guy that generates a ton of bat speed with a shorter swing, where we've seen most of the bat speed comes with longer swings. But I'm getting into some of those things. But is there anything you start to glean from, if you've had an opportunity, I don't know, to check out all of this StatCast bat tracking data that was released this morning?
I've scratched the surface a little bit, and it was basically the same thing as what we've already known about what StatCast data we've been getting is the Royals should be considered maybe one of the more unlucky teams when it comes to expected stats versus actual stats. And the bat speed and the barrel frequency is kind of the ones I was messing around with, kind of, reinforce that idea. So I think what they're doing is good. They've done it since basically the All-Star break last year, where they're slugging, they're hitting a ball harder very consistently, and it's just not finding holes. So I don't know what to really make of that, because it's not really leading to more counting stats. They're not hitting more home runs, or really. It's just kind of, I don't know what to do with it, but it is kind of like one of those, they call it a peripheral metric, whereas it's not going to be tried and true. You're not going to be able to point this to all the time, but it can kind of help you spell out why something is happening. So that's kind of all I've really gotten into it. They are doing what you want them to do as hitters and pitchers, really. So that's about all we can ask for as a fan base and as an organization and as a city and a franchise. So it is fun, and get real nerdy about it in that. Side. And I'm looking forward to jumping into it too. The interesting thing that I saw when I was looking into it as well is that Dairon Blanco and Nelia Velazquez are side by side when it comes to bat speed versus the amount of barrels that they put, or the amount of barreled up for. So They are the same player, apparently. I don't think any of us saw that coming.
Well, you know what? Then I'll take my chances with Dairon Blanco rather than Velazquez, because you're getting more extra base hits from Blanco right now than you are from Velazquez, and you're getting a hell of a lot better speed and base running from Blanco than you are from Velazquez.
That is correct.
So,
that is hard to deny.
Yes.
Hard to deny that.
And by the way, I appreciated the fact that, Quatrero put Blanco right back in the lineup the next night. It wasn't hey, you're filling in on Thursday, great game. But, we're going back to what we had planned already, that the adjustment that, you had an amazing game. I'm going to put you right back in there. Let's see what you got. Let's go, man. And he's getting a little bit more playing time. And whether that's the inability of Garrett Hampson to come through, or if it's, Frazier that was in a slump until Friday night in the ninth inning, or whatever it might be, or MJ Melendez just in general not hitting against lefties. But I appreciated that Quatrero then made that adjustment and said, all right, we're going to put you back in the lineup on Friday, gets a little more playing time over the weekend as well, just to sort of see what you have here, because maybe he's Paulo Orlando, where water finds its level. The amount of playing time he was playing was perfect. The more playing time he got, the more exposed he was. Maybe Blanco's that guy, or maybe he turns out to be a nice little piece that plays more often than you thought he was going to, and he can actually make an impact to some degree.
Yeah, I've since last year when he kind of came on the scene, it kind of seemed like he would be a Gerard Dyson type of player, mostly a pinch runner, a defensive substitution type of guy, and that's a great role to have, especially as he came in and made his debut as like a 29-year-old. So relatively pretty old as a guy, but I kind of see that more reinforced because there were times Rod Dyson looked like the best outfielder in those Royals teams. So I think that could actually be the case that Dairon Blanco could be the new Gerard Dyson. And if that's the case, that is an absolute weapon that Matt Quatrero will be able to use. And sometimes that looks like a pinch runner in the ninth to score the winning run. But sometimes that might look like a heroic 3-for-4 game on a Friday night randomly and then getting put back in the lineup on Saturday. So it's fun. It's fun to have options.
Yeah.
There were so many slumping guys in this lineup that we just could not figure out how to get activated. And here comes Dairon Blanco, says, I'm ready to get activated. Let's do this, and gets the shot and does it. So it's just fun to be able to have a guy that has got a hot hand right now.
Visiting with Josh Kaiser, One Royal Way podcast. Any concern with James MacArthur? I know that there was the back-to-back saves that were blown, and I think there was an overreaction to MacArthur at that point of you got to get him out of there the ninth. I'm like, all right, we'll see. It's that Sunday, a week ago Sunday, was his first ever blown save in the ninth inning. And he came back and he gave up that shot with 2 outs and 2 strikes. They were a strike away before the double happened before the walk, and then Adames hitting the 3-run shot. He bounces back the next night and gets the save in 2/3 of an inning. And then yesterday he does have a 3-run lead, but he gives up the earned run in the game, the home run. He hasn't had any strikeouts in his last 3 outings. Any concern from James MacArthur? Since his last 4 outings, he has 5 earned runs and a total of 3 strikeouts in the 4 2/3.
I mean, I'm a fan with the pulse, so I obviously have concerns about it, but I also know that bullpens and relievers in general are volatile at any given moment. You're just trying to find the guy that gives you the best shot, which is still James MacArthur in my mind, even with the concerns. So things are not going as well as anybody would hope, and I would bet that he would be at the top of that list, but I do still believe that the stuff is there, that he's just got a little bit of a funk and guys are getting more of a read on him, so he's going to have to make adjustments to it just like any other player. So just got to make those adjustments, and I think he'll get there. But, yeah, it is not fun when you have get put in those high-leverage situations and potentially start giving up runs. And even when you come in with a 3-run lead and give a home run up, you're like, okay, this is a problem. But at the same time, I still think that him and Shrives there at the back of that bullpen is still probably the right duo to go with some other options that would potentially be coming up from Omaha at some point.
It's not ideal to give up a home run when you're up 3, but in a way, I mean, there's a part of me that's like, you're up 3. I'd rather you give up a home run than a walk, because at least the home run, I know you're trying to attack the strike zone. You're up 3 and you're not walking guys and trying to nibble, and now you're putting guys on base where now you're a swing away from either tying it or winning it, like we saw against the Brewers on the 7th.
Yeah, 100%. It feels like there's way more rallies to start off with a leadoff walk than it is a home run. 100%.
Yep, absolutely. Josh Kaiser, One Royal Way podcast. Josh, you're the man. Appreciate it as always, brother. Good call on Lucas Duda and him being left out of all of our lists for the top Royals free agent signings of all time. That is a really good call and a terrible omission on our parts. I blame Sterling really for the whole thing. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Hey. It was truly, truly my pleasure. We'll never forget the Lucas Duda era, and I appreciate you guys having me as always. Take care. We'll see you next week, guys.
Absolutely. The pleasure is all on this side of the table there. We appreciate that. Josh Kaiser, One Royal Way podcast, and pointing out Sterling's terrible, terrible list in not having Lucas Duda in the top 5.
I said he was an honorable mention.
No,
he was there with Mike Jacobs. Okay,
Sterling,
how dare you, good
Sterling,
sir?
I'm not seeing Duda in your top 5 at all. Honorable mention, honorable schmention. You
He
know?
was there next to Scott Podsednik, okay? How?
Mike Jacobs and Scott Podsednik. I love it. That is great. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling. Chiefs opening up against the Ravens. Patrick Mahomes in his Time 100 gala, giving a toast to women's sports. We'll talk about that a little bit and some other things going on from the weekend. We take a timeout. We come back. We talk some Chiefs. We talk some Royals. We talk some NFL schedule. More next. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels. We'll hang out with Mick Schaefer coming up at 1 o'clock. The news of the day in the NFL is the opening day game has been announced. It is Chiefs and Ravens. I really thought it was going to be the Texans because it reminded me a lot of the Lions a year ago, of a new and up-and-coming sexy team that could compete in their conference for superiority to go to the Super Bowl or make some headway in their ranking and position in the hierarchy of that particular conference. Detroit, obviously, we saw that last year, taking the step forward, winning a playoff game for the first time since, I believe, the Kennedy. I'm not sure. Maybe. So they win a playoff game finally, the Detroit Lions do. And so it's like, Texans expected to make this jump this year. And I didn't know if we would see the hot, cool matchups on opening night that you typically would think, like, all right, let's get the season started. These are going to be great games. This is going to be one of the premier matchups, most looking forward to see the entire season. Last year, we talked about Eagles and Bills and Bengals and who would be the opener, whether that be the Chargers as well. The Chiefs have opened the season with the Chargers more than any other team. And it's not really close. There's like a 4-game difference between the Chargers and everybody else. They've opened up the season with the Chargers a lot. Would it be something like that, like a divisional game? And we haven't typically seen that, but the last 2 years we have seen interconference games. We've seen Chiefs and Lions, and we saw Rams and Bills the year before that. Year before that, it was Bucks and somebody. I can't remember, who it ended up being. But it was Chiefs and Texans when they won the Super Bowl, and it was a rematch of that playoff game. Because the thought process, Sterling, is typically like, oh, well, they're going to get TV viewers on opening night regardless. No matter what the matchup is, you got gambling, you got fantasy football, you've got this starving for the NFL. You haven't watched a game since early February. Now it's September. Put any team against any team that night and you'll watch. I was a little surprised it was a premier matchup for the Chiefs this year in being that AFC Championship game rematch of the Ravens. I was pretty surprised that was what they went with. I'm good with it. I'm perfectly fine that they went with that matchup because it'll be fun. And I think the Chiefs may have learned a little bit from last year in having the ceremony and the banner and all of that and a lot of the emotions that overtake you to then translating that to the game. And they lose against the Lions. I think there'll be a little bit of, learning your lesson because the first time they did this after 2019 was COVID.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the raising of the banner and all of that stuff that you saw last year.
How crazy is it, though? You learn from it. You're just going to do it again next year. Just go ahead and just run it right back.
Right, yeah, of course.
It's great that the Chiefs are in that situation, that scenario. That's phenomenal. You're right, though. The Ravens, to me, came as a surprise. We never once talked about the Ravens being a potential opening game for Kansas City. Not that we wouldn't like to see it, but it was one that we thought the NFL's probably going to try and save this one for the exact reasons of they're not an up-and-coming team. And two, it's opening night. They're going to watch whoever the Chiefs play. It'll be a good game. We thought maybe the Bengals would be the one team where you're like, that's a pretty good team with some history between the two, and they might just do it because Joe Burrow most likely is going to be healthy. And you don't know if Joe Burrow is going to be healthy later on in the year. The trends of his career would probably lend you to believe, no, he will not be healthy as the season goes on, so might as well have that great matchup early. They went a different route. If you're the Chiefs, I don't know how you view this. You don't have a tight AFC game later on in the year, but also this game might mean more week one than like the Lions game. Didn't mean a lot. In the grand scheme of things, you lose to the Lions to an NFC opponent, game one, it didn't matter. It doesn't destroy your season. That's not one of those losses that you're like, oh, it's the NFC. So for me, I think playing the NFC is actually better for that exact reason, because we all know the first, game for sure, but first 4, you're trying to feel each other out. You're trying to feel what kind of team you have. Even when you have all these returning pieces, what you see the first 4, 5, 6 games is not what you see as you head into the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're the Chiefs right now, you're sitting here going, oh, great, we play a great team, very talented team early on. Again, even if they lose, it's not a big deal. If they lose, the national media is going to go insane, saying the Ravens are the next team to beat in the AFC. Lamar Jackson, did they finally break the hump, break the streak? We all know the Ravens will lose first round of the playoffs. The Chiefs will probably three-peat, and then we'll put that to rest.
For sure.
But
I just love that. Like, they'll probably three-peat. I mean, it's just, they'll probably end up winning. No matter what happens week number 1, who knows? I mean, probably
it's like
do
the
that.
Patriots.
Yeah, but it is, though. I mean, and that's what it is, because if you're a Chiefs fan, think back to when the Chiefs played the Patriots opening game, right? I still remember where I was at. That was amazing. I was at Big Charlie's Saloon in Philly. I remember exactly where I was at.
Nice.
Frank Bowl loves that place.
Does he?
Frank Bowl, big fan. I know that.
Is that the Spags place?
Yeah, it's the Spags place.
Nice.
It's a great spot. I remember walking in one time, and they're just like, I'm like, can I get like 6 beers? They didn't really have pricing. It's cash only. And there's like, hey, give us $10. I'm like, oh, cool.
Those
like,
are the best bars.
And they're like,
ever.
you want a hot dog? I'm like, I guess. Some dude on a grill over there outside just brings me a hot dog. I'm like, okay, no, this place is sweet. This is awesome. But if you remember what that was like, that's kind of what the Ravens were feeling. That's what the Bills were feeling, what the Bengals were feeling like. The issue is the Chiefs overcame that. The Chiefs overcame the hump and finally started to win. Those teams have it, and now I guess this is the Ravens' turn to almost be put in that conversation, right? They kind of fizzled out for a few years, but now it feels like they're back. This is maybe the NFL's chance to say, hey, look, they're still a contender too.
And Detroit last year, like we talked about, like the best player on the field for the Detroit Lions was Kadarius Toney last year, which was great for them, obviously. But no Chris Jones, no Travis Kelce. The touchdown drive that the Detroit Lions had came off a fake punt, so even the defense got to stop then, and special teams let them down. There was a defensive score. There were field goals along the way, obviously, all of that stuff. They end up losing to the Lions on opening night. But even with the loss to the Lions on opening night, in the last 16 years, the team, the home team on that first game of the season, Super Bowl winners, are 11-5. Even with that loss last year to Detroit. So they were 11-4 going into last year. They're now 11-5. The Super Bowl winners, first game of the season. When you talk about like the distractions, the emotions, you're raising the banner, all of that stuff, and teams were still, essentially a division-winning team record over 16 years now of being 11-5.
Well, and that also counts the Chiefs beating the Patriots.
Yeah, it does.
Right, so
Yeah,
like
that's right.
the Chiefs are involved in 2 of the losses, one to help them, one to hurt them in the statistic.
The losses are going back New York after they beat the Patriots, losing to the Dallas Cowboys 24-17. Baltimore losing to Denver 49-27. New England losing to Kansas City. And then the last 2 years, Rams losing to Buffalo, Chiefs losing to the Lions. Those are the 5 losses. The other ones are New York beating Washington, Pittsburgh over Tennessee, New Orleans beating Minnesota, Green Bay over New Orleans, Seattle over Green Bay, New England over Pittsburgh, Denver over Carolina. That was the Super Bowl rematch.
Yeah, that was.
The last game and the first game, they beat Carolina by 1. Philadelphia beat Atlanta. New England beat Pittsburgh. Chiefs beat the Texans. Bucks beat the Cowboys. And then the last 2 years, the home teams have lost. And there's some things to go along with that. The Rams had a good portion of turnover on their team. Stafford dealing with an arm injury, all of that stuff a couple of years ago. And Buffalo trying to get to last year, that divisional round, 13 seconds. We've been waiting all off season to get back to playing football again.
Yeah, the regular season is Buffalo's like playoff time. So.
The first 6-7 weeks of the season, they are the greatest team in the league. And then last year, the Chiefs losing to Detroit. So I was surprised when I went back and looked because I'm like, okay, well, you've got the distractions. You've got all of that stuff. You aren't the same team as the year before. Typically, they put a good matchups there. So there's a good team that's expected to be good coming into your place. but those teams have traditionally taken care of business at home. And again, that's why I point out sort of the fluky nature of last year against the Lions. No Chris Jones, no Travis Kelce. Multiple drop passes by Kadarius Toney, one resulting in a pick six. The scoring drive for the Lions coming off of a fake punt, things like that. So, I mean...
But that's almost why and I'm with you totally, but the first game of the season, to me, there's always going to be mistakes.
Yeah.
It's always going to be a little sloppier than what the Bills or the one exception, as you're mentioning, honestly. So I wish it was an NFC opponent for that reason. I really do. I was trying to.
I'd be perfectly fine with it being an NFC opponent.
I was trying to do the math when you were going through all those games and teams. Sounds like it's pretty 50-50, almost a coin flip, whether it's you're playing inter or intra division.
Yeah, going back and looking, it's of the 16. There's Green Bay, New Orleans, Giants, Cowboys, New England, Pittsburgh, Denver, Carolina. There's one.
Yeah.
And then the last two. So there's only three of those.
Three, okay. So
three of those 16 have been inter-conference games. The rest have been intra-conference games.
I wonder if they realize like this is kind of beneficial for both sides, that none of them had to burn a potentially costly game as the first game of the season. Not only the first time people are playing football full speed.
Well, if you're the Super Bowl champion, you're sitting here going, wow, that's my reward for winning is week one against a great opponent, and there's playoff. Again,
you got to play them eventually.
Hard to say playoff. Yeah, but you'd prefer to play, at least if you're a great team, if you're a really good team, you'd prefer to play them later on in the season once you know what you have, especially if you're the Chiefs. They have traditionally gotten better, it feels like. When they win the Super Bowl, they've gotten better as the season's progressed.
But they've also had a number of losses late in the season, especially the Bengals.
Yeah.
That they've had those losses late in the year. But yeah, I'm good with it being Baltimore. Bring it on. I mean, you got to play them at some point. They're going to have to play Cincinnati at some point.
We proved road, home in the playoffs, obviously.
That's right.
It doesn't matter anymore.
And it's fun to go back and relive that. I mean, they weren't reliving anything for, like, if Chiefs and Eagles had been the opener last year, or Chiefs and Bengals had been the opener last year, you would have relived that playoff run, beating the Bengals in the AFC Championship game, beating the Eagles, both of those only because of the referees. The Chiefs really did nothing on their own end to beat the Bengals or the Eagles. It was essentially, we could say that enough time has passed. We can be on it. It was gifted to them, right? They didn't really do anything or make any plays. The late hit on Patrick Mahomes was a terrible call.
Yeah, we're waiting on that rule change where you can just tackle anyone anywhere on the field.
He was only like, what, 4 steps out of bounds at that
sitting
point?
on the bench at this point.
Like, come on. Like, I don't know how. How do you make that
calls
call?
it a travel. The NBA goes, he traveled out of bounds and still got hit.
He had as many steps out of bounds as Svi had against Kansas State from midcourt. I'm not sure how I'm not sure how you make that call in that situation. You got to let the players decide it, okay? You got to let the players decide it on the field, and obviously, I don't know that Juju Smith-Schuster was really even touched. Was he? I mean, was he really touched at all? I mean, it didn't. Yeah, the defender said that he held him. Okay, let's put that aside. Okay.
The jersey was pulled.
Right,
a whole lot.
NFL Films made a point to pause this frame here on every single mic'd up video that they put out after the Super Bowl. Just letting everyone know, here's the hold.
Here's
right
the hold.
here.
Yeah, that's it was a real hold, and the player even saying, yeah, I held him. I just was hoping it wouldn't be called. Oh, okay. I was speeding, and I was hoping I wouldn't get caught.
Yeah.
It's like, no, how are you going to give me a ticket for doing that? Yes, I was like 15 over, but I was hoping I wouldn't get caught. This whole time, people are driving. You did not get any of them for speeding on this road, but you got me. You haven't been pulling people over for speeding on this road at that time in years. You haven't been doing it all day, and now you're going to do it because I'm the one speeding? Yes, I was speeding. I just didn't think I would be pulled over for it.
It's like when you go 10 miles over. The key is to go 9.
Well,
Don't do it, everyone. You got to go 9.
10 you're fine, 9 you're fine, 10 you're mine.
Is that a real thing, or did you just come up with that? Because if so, that's
I think that's a real thing.
Fairly creative.
You can do that, or 10 you're in the pen.
10 you're well, depending on what you got any warrants or anything.
Wow, yeah.
Got anything going on? It's like, I'm going to need you to step out of the car.
If you're going to the penitentiary for going 10 miles over, man, you got
some priors.
Serious baggage.
You got some priors going on. You got some things that are not working in your favor right
Dylan,
now.
you want to tell us anything, bud?
And if you had those priors, maybe don't speed. I don't know. Just
That's
maybe.
why I only do 9.
Yes. You found the trunk full of cocaine, didn't you? Dang it. Yeah, I probably should have been going. Had I known that I was facing 30 years for trafficking, I probably would not have sped on this particular road. If I had to do it again, that would have been a smarter choice for me. I set the cruise control at 9. We came over a hill.
It's tough.
It takes a while for the car to adjust, man. What do you want me to do on that one? We'll take a timeout, come back, continue rolling. More Zone next. prematurely ask for a refund, you got to wait till the hour is over with Mick Schaefer. And maybe you'll double down and pay twice for it because it'll be so good. We'll find out together. Royals in action tonight against the Mariners at 8:40. Half game behind the Guardians, tied with the Twins. Brady Singer on the mound tonight, taking on George Kirby. Also coming up tonight, Kansas City Monarchs taking on Fargo Moorhead. You can hear that right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We get some Learn Funniest Best coming up in the next hour. Things that took place over the weekend. Talk a little Royals, talk a little Chiefs, and schedule with Mick Schaefer coming up next.
more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
All right, hanging out here on this Monday edition of the show, Mick Schaefer joining us. We got Learn Phineas Best coming up in the second segment. Mick, did you see the lights, the Aurora Borealis? Did you see some of those lights on Friday or Saturday?
In fact, I thought we were at a grad party, and a lot of the ladies were they were like, we're going to go walk over and watch the Northern Lights. And I just thought they were drunk. I'm like, you're in Kansas. You're in Kansas City. You can't. This is dumb. Although I do remember nights back on the farm where it's easier to see. You don't have your own lights getting in the way. I remember back in the day, once every couple of years, you could look up and see them. So I had no idea till Friday night, and I guess you could see them on Saturday too. So good for all the Auroras. And
don't you work at a station that does weather?
Not on Fridays and Saturdays, boys.
What about Thursday? They didn't talk about it Thursday?
They might have.
You didn't hear Wes discussing that, breaking it down?
I am notorious for not paying attention to what's right in front of me, right before me, because I get up there right at the beginning of the weather, and so they will do weather. We'll go to break, and I'll be like, "Hey, Wes, Saturday morning, what's the temp? What's the rain chances?" He's like, "Well, I just said it literally 30 seconds ago, but I'll say it again." I'm like, "Thank you."
Yeah, I just wanted to see if you were making it up.
Yeah.
Now, if you have to say it again, now I know you're telling the truth.
I don't listen when I watch the news. I hate it, first of all, but I also don't listen to it, right? Because I'm watching everything else. I'm looking at the graphics. I'm looking at kind of the presentation, everything else on the screen. I'm like, oh, here's how they shot that. Here's how they edited that. I don't pay attention to the message or the information being disseminated.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, you're working behind the scenes for it. You're making sure the show goes off well.
Yes.
And is presented well and is delivered appropriately.
Yeah. I don't have time for the information.
You don't really care about what information.
For the news.
You don't really care about what information in the sports is put out, just as long as it's presented in a right way.
Well? Okay. Is it wrapped up nicely?
Yes. I mean, then it's great. Yeah. Mick, you did local news from Mankato, Minnesota, but it was a tight 2.5, though, right? I mean, it was really good. The package was good. I delivered all the names correctly, right? But it was about Minnesota. We're in Kansas City. Your point?
Well, listen, they can see the Northern Lights all the time up there in Mankato, Minnesota.
That's right, yes. I mean, they're northern of us. Everything north of us is really the Northern Lights.
Yeah.
You know?
Did you guys see them?
I did not.
You were looking the wrong direction again.
Yes, I was looking south.
You're looking over Oklahoma.
He actually wore those glasses.
I love it, yes. What's the deal? I can't.
These eclipse glasses. I was told that everything's just dark. I don't get it. There's no lights flashing or anything. My wife saw it on Friday night and took a picture, but I did not. I was watching the Royals game, and then we went out on Saturday.
I don't know if I would have been able to tell. Is that the Northern Lights or is that just Clay County? I don't know.
I saw nothing. I waltzed around in every direction just to confirm. Yeah, 3-4. It was in 3-4 time, just waltzing out there, and nothing. Downtown Overland Park, not a great spot to try and see.
Get out in the country for that.
Yeah,
I saw Halley's Comet as a child.
Good for Haley. Good for her.
You're going to have to be really old to see it again.
I do. This was in what year was this?
Like 84, 1984.
Okay, so I was negative.
That's why I said you're going to have to be really old. It
I
comes
thought
around
Haley's Comet came
around.
Haley's Comet was
86 years.
Haley's Comet was 86. I only know that because my wife was born in 86. She was almost named Haley.
Oh, nice.
Because of Haley's Comet.
So 86. So you still weren't around. So you're going to be really old. It comes around every 76 years. What year were you born?
94. So I was an egg, probably.
So you'll be 66.
It took you 8 years.
I don't know. It could have been egg.
I don't think that math is.
Know much about
were you hatched? Were you mork?
So you're going to be 68 when it comes around again.
You'll be fine.
Dude, I should be still kicking it.
You'll be fine.
I'll be an athlete still.
Yeah. Yes, you can still get rimmed.
Totally. I'll be a prospect.
Yes.
I would have to be like 85. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think I'm
going
to.
What was the one that happened?
I should have enjoyed it when I was 6 years old. Really
90s.
taking it in. That would have been smart for me to do that.
What was the thing? The late 90s
Y2K.
or early 2000s? Yeah, maybe it was
Y2K. Yeah, that's it was a big deal. It's kind of a big deal. Everybody was counting down the time when the whole world was going to stop spinning on its axis. You know, everything was
2012.
How often does that come around? Do we know?
I can't wait for Y3K.
Every 1,000 years. How often does that come around?
Y2K. Apparently, every 2,000 years it comes around. So she sent me a picture, and she's like, "Hey, look, it's."
Could you tell?
Yeah, I was like, "That's not the Northern Star, Kaylin. It's the light from the sewer treatment plant." But no, I could tell. But it was like it was weird because it's like you got to look through your camera to really see the effect.
Yeah, sure.
And we were talking about it in the first part of the show, and it's like it's the exact opposite of typically when you're like the camera, the picture doesn't do it justice of what it looked like. I mean, this was just a brilliant scenery we were at in the mountains and the way the snow was sort of glistening with the sun, and it was always amazing. And then the picture's okay. It's pretty cool. This one was like, oh, you see it? There's a little bit. And you take a picture. It's like, boom.
Bam.
What the hell?
You needed that
Where'd
filter.
Yeah, apparently.
You
No
needed
filter.
Instagram filter.
And those were no filters. It was God's filter.
God's filter on it.
That's what it was. Yeah, I'm really surprised because Dylan and Jack also said they had no clue that it was happening. Like
I thought the ladies were drunk. They were, and just talking nonsense, which
also
they do. They are. Yeah.
So you're 2 for 2.
Yes.
It makes sense why you just assumed that it was a regular Friday night.
Yes.
Drunk and talking nonsense is what they're doing.
Northern Lights. Come on.
I mean,
what are we?
Yes.
What are we in Atchison?
Yeah.
Jeez.
I mean, Northern Lights. This isn't. We're not in Canada. We're not going to be able to see it's not Alaska.
There are Southern Lights.
Really?
The Australia Borealis. True story.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Same thing
Have
happens
we
down
ever,
there.
have we ever seen those?
I think we're way too far north for those. Maybe in Buenos Aires they're seeing that, but not in Kansas City.
We're like in the middle of the
I was
United
looking
States,
south.
so I figured, we could maybe see both.
Yeah, but we're
like,
way
in the-
north of the equator.
Yeah,
right?
don't bring that up.
Okay. Oh.
United States is the middle of
the
world.
The universe, yeah.
So
Doesn't
on
the
this flat Earth, it is the middle of
the middle
flat.
of it.
Don't the land masses revolve around?
I think so.
North
yeah.
America.
That's what I learned.
Isn't that?
No, not North
system
America, just
actually
the United States.
Orbits around Earth
Yeah,
too.
yeah. The orbits.
Don't the states orbit around Kansas?
Yes, that's right. I mean, it just makes
Spin around Kansas.
total sense. This is the heart of America.
It is.
Right. Although
The heart doesn't move.
which is also kind of weird because the heart isn't like directly in the middle of your body.
The middle
sternum of America.
But wouldn't the heart of America be like Indianapolis?
Yeah.
right, because it's more left. Yeah.
Wyoming.
Yes. No, that's the exact opposite side. Though.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Stage left.
stage left. Yeah. Yeah.
The
But I'll still
geographic
go with
center
it.
of the U.S. is in right outside Smith Center, Kansas. So we're pretty close.
Yeah.
Pretty close.
The soccer capital of the United States is right here.
Is it?
Yeah.
Female, definitely these days.
Yeah. Lowercase is about 3.5 hours east.
That's right.
What?
No, I agree with you.
Other than the way they've been playing this year. They have.
Well, that
they've
was
been-
the last. Oh no, they tied that game. That was
Yeah.
the last. I mean, I think that was the last non-loss, right? Was the St. Louis?
that was
match.
and Saturday was a rough one. Let's hear from Peter Vermees.
Oh man, do you even need me then the rest of the hour here? I think you got enough sound bites to get
I was
through.
on the board for that. And
Oh, yeah?
Oh boy, it was a while before he got to the podium. So there was a conversation before.
Yeah, that apparently the paint was ripped off the wall. But here's Peter Vermees post game talking about the issues with his club right now.
Peter, what do you think it's going to take to turn the momentum around?
Change of mentality. Change of mentality. Change of mentality. That's it. That's it. Look, this game is, sports are all about desire, passion. That's what it's about, right? In sports, you suffer, right? You suffer in different ways. Sometimes you suffer a result. Sometimes you suffer because of the effort, the amount of effort you had to put into a game. Like, that all is part of it. I don't believe that every guy on that field suffered that way tonight. And mentality, heart, you have to have it. If you don't have it, you might as well forget about it. You can't walk into the stadium and you can't step into the field and you miss the most important ingredient in it is effort. If you don't have that, you're not willing to outwork your opponent. Because I know soccer is 11v11, but at the end of the day, especially the players, they're 1v1. There's 10 guys. They're 1v1. They play against the same guy a lot in the game. Yeah, sometimes you play against another guy, sure. But you have an individual duel with the guy that you really see through in the game. We all don't dominate those environments, and you have to. You have to do it physically, you have to do it mentally, and then you have to do it technically and tactically as well. You have to do that. And that's not being done by quite a few guys. This is a very similar group that we had last year. I mean, this is very similar. There's only a couple additions to this team at the moment. So that team figured out from a mentality perspective to do what they did last year, which was, look, in my opinion, pretty impressive once we got our guys back. It's a mentality right now. It's not that they don't have it; it's that it's not happening. And as I said to you, I'm the first person to say I'll take responsibility, but when I have to do that, it's also going to be really. When I was talking about suffering, there will be some suffering over there, some real suffering.
Is that running? Punishments and how hard you got to work, drawing out the mentality from the players. Like, it's a mentality, so they aren't working. They're not working hard out there. They're giving up some bad goals. The back line has been brutal. They've given up 21 goals this year. Last year, the issue was that they couldn't put it in the back of the net. This year, they've got 19 goals. They have just given up 21 of them. And if it wasn't for the last, 10 minutes of the match and, extra time as well, but the added time in the last 10 minutes of the match, they might have 8 or 9 more points this year. I mean, you'd be talking about being in 3rd or 4th place as opposed to 12th.
Nate said it, I think, after the 63rd minute or something like that in games this year. They're being outscored 13-3.
I mean,
13-3.
And is that the mentality of playing the final third of that match? You've got 60 minutes of the 90, and you play the final third
because you're going to have the extra time.
Yeah. So final third of that match that you're just not out there playing and putting in the work of whatever it might take. He didn't name names, and different people have different names.
He did at one point say, you can see, he was talking about it was a very explosive first soundbite right before this one, where he said that second goal was all effort, and there was none out there, and you can see who it was. Well, I have kind of an untrained soccer eye. This one is untrained soccer eye. This one is even worse.
Yeah, that's right. And it drifts a little bit.
Yes, it does. Yeah, it's looking at other sports. And so I don't, I'm not for sure. I have guesses on who he's talking about, but I'm not quite sure. But the trained soccer eyes know exactly who he was talking about on that goal.
Here's Daniel Shalloway. He was asked about Peter Vermeer's comments. Here is Shalloway, who had a goal in the match on Saturday, but here he is talking about Peter Vermeer's comments about the team.
Equalizer tonight. How'd that feel? Felt great. Unfortunately, it didn't get us the win, but that was nice.
It's the first one of the year. I know it seemed one of those where you just kind of like got the ball, turned and hit, didn't really think about it. That just kind of helps get the confidence flowing when you get one like that.
Yeah, of course. Any goal gets confidence going, so I'm very happy about that.
Peter mentioned that the mentality of the team he doesn't think is where he wants it to be right now. I'm sure some people in the locker room might feel the same way. So as one of the veteran leaders of the team, what do you think needs to change in the locker room or on the field to help fix the mentality?
I mean, if there's players who don't have the mentality, get rid of them and move on.
Good.
Is there a way to kind of get guys to? I mean, I guess if you have to get guys to get going, then they shouldn't be here at all. Is that pretty much it?
Playing professional sports, if you don't have the mentality, then what are we doing? So, if it's me, get rid of me. If it's others, get rid of others. Every year we have this problem, then change it.
Is this an issue that's kind of the head of it? Like right now, is it just kind of like a fed upness at this point with we're just not where we should be?
We got ourselves in a bad form, like a bad run, and it's difficult to get out, but the bare minimum is always the mentality, I think, and if we're lacking that, then we have a bigger issue.
Mentality is what Peter Vermeer said, and then Daniel Shalloway saying, if you don't have that mentality, then you have a bigger issue. And Shalloway saying, if it's different guys, get rid of them. If it's me, get rid of me. Like, okay, then, and I don't know if that was honestly, I don't know if that was him just stepping up and going.
Oh, he knows it's not him, I think.
Or if he thinks there's Peter Vermees, pointing at different fingers or at Shalloway and saying, challenger, fine, then get rid of us. Then get rid of us then. If that's the problem, if we're the issue, then get rid of us. I don't know if it's a challenge back to Vermees, as in like
I took it more of it. He's on Vermees' side.
I took it more of that as well. I did, but I'm offering devil's advocate that people can interpret things differently. If this is if it's us, then get rid of us. Then if we're the issue, then get rid of us and fix it. Because the same thing last year and this year. It's the same thing, then get rid of us and find somebody else. If it's always somebody else is the problem there, manager.
If somebody else said that, I might have taken it that way. But just knowing Shallowy and how much of a team leader he is, and how much of a hard worker he is,
and the relationship
kind of
with Vermees,
absolutely, and he's kind of the face of that franchise. And look, they absolutely know. I mean, Peter beat around the bush a little bit on who it was that in the post game with us. There's no chance he didn't name names. In the locker room afterward with those guys in there. Yeah, he's very, very direct, and I'm sure those guys know kind of who's on his good side and who's on his bad side at this point.
You'll see who's in the starting lineup next game.
Might be.
You're right.
Might be, or who isn't fit to play because they've been running and running and running and running and running. We'll see a mentality, but they started out last year slow, and they were able to bounce back. And they got into the conference semis after beating the lower cases, and maybe they could have won, should have won, whatever the arguments might be for that. But this is now back-to-back years where it's been a slower start where you feel like they're better than how they've been playing. And especially as you talked about the Nate stat with the last 60 minutes or so of that, last 30 minutes or so of the match and added time, that they're getting outscored by that ridiculous margin. I mean, you make a case of like, okay, so the final 30 minutes of the match, they're the worst team in MLS. First 60 minutes of the match, they're a top 3 team in the Western Conference. But it's evened out for them to be 12th right now. 9 teams make the postseason. But that ain't even making the postseason ain't exactly like, oh, man, you made the postseason, because 9 out of 14 teams make it. I mean, it's you got to be pretty rough to not make the postseason. And right now, they are flirting with dead last.
They are. They're in 11th right now.
They're going to get relegated to the USL. If
they are. They're going to go to Europe now. Be playing Omaha and Tulsa on a regular basis.
More often than not.
The U.S. Open Cup. No, I mean, look, this is going on, 15, 16 months now of this kind of play. And so at some point you wonder, okay, is it just that they're not a good team? Right, and this is just what happens to teams that aren't good. They find these little things like, if we would have done this, we're here. And maybe it's not a button they haven't pushed or a mindset they haven't accepted. Maybe they're just not a good team, and they need more, as in talent and bodies in there. So I wonder if that's the case, because there's things they could have done in all these matches, but we've been saying this same thing about the second half scoring for the entire season. Last year, as you said, it was about the team not able to put the soccer ball in the net. And so it's a different thing, but it's still just kind of like they're coming up a day late and dollar short. And a lot of times that's Bill Parcells, you are what your record says. And, this is what bad teams do and say all the time. We're bouncing the football away. I mean, the worst NFL teams are always, in this game, you're 2-13 now, right? So you're just bad.
Remember, the Chiefs used to say stuff like this.
Oh, yeah.
When you're a fan of the Chiefs back in the day, even when Alex Smith was here, and you're like, oh, well, if this would have gone
Absolutely.
right. Well, even going to the playoffs, like against the Steelers, right? When they the holding call against Eric Fisher. Well, if that wasn't called, you got to score more than that. You could do other things to wash that one play away. There are other things you can do. I always think that's such a soft mindset. Is, well, we were one play away. Okay, and the other team probably made 4 mistakes that they were thinking the exact same thing.
Exactly.
Right now, the Chiefs, they're winning all these games, and even when there's things that go wrong, even when there's like a bad call, even when you're like, oh man, the defensive line or something didn't play great this game, well, they still won because they were able to overcome it.
They beat the Bills on the road, and they fumbled through the end zone.
They did.
On what was that, first and goal or second and goal, whatever it was, they still found a way to win. That could be one where you go, if they don't fumble through the end zone, they go on the road and beat the or beat the Bills. Yeah, but they would have lost to the Ravens. I don't know. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. We'll see. But man, would have loved to get that victory if it wasn't for McCole Hardman fumbling through the end zone. No, they made enough plays to be able to still overcome and win that game.
Would the Chiefs win 11 regular season games last year and then 4 in the playoffs?
Yeah.
There's 15 teams. Well, they beat a couple teams twice. There's probably 10 teams minus the Bears, right? That are lamenting, saying we were a bounce of the football away from beating the Chiefs. And in Sporting's case, it doesn't mean they're a bad team. It just means that they're just a step short of these other teams, right? And they're not, because it's not like everybody they're playing are robots and have the perfect mindset and are running things perfectly every single time. They're, like Sterling said, they're making mistakes as well. Sporting's just making more of them, and I wonder if at that point it just comes back to talent, because a lot of times the teams that find ways to win games are the teams with more talent.
Yeah. And Sporting has some injured players and some aging stars. They've got that combination going on right now. A couple of good players in the back line that are injured, and Russell and Polito, aging, especially Russell, but also Polito with I don't know if it was Polito he's talking about, but the first goal was the immediate threat is right there. And
Unchecked,
you're sort of fading away to what would be a lesser threat, and then just allowing a wide open chance, and a good player puts it in the back of the net, and that's
he
what
called
happened.
that first one a mistake. He called it an amateur mistake.
And
he called
it
the second one all about effort.
Yeah. And neither of those should be happening. You shouldn't have an amateur mistake from
When
from your highest paid player.
Aliyu from Houston just race pass.
Oh yeah,
multiple Kansas City defenders to become wide open to score that goal.
Yeah, and there were a lot of things that could have happened. Could Shalloway have, tried to tackle there from behind and taken a card just to stop the run if he felt like his team was tired or whatever? But it's hard to blame that guy who's trailing when there were 5 guys in front of that one pass and it skipped through 4 somehow. But it's you grasp draw from the hands of victory, and you grasp defeat from the hands of draw constantly with this team. And what you were talking about, again, it's one of my favorite Bobby Petrino lines, maybe my only favorite Bobby Petrino line, was when it was early in his career when he was talking about his team struggling and losing, and he's like, well, we had this happen. And he's talking to his dad, who's a famous football coach, high school football coach in Montana, and it's like, well, we lost because of this, and then that game, this thing happened, and then the next week, that thing happened, and Dad was like, oh, I know what the problem is. What? You're not very good. That's the issue. You're not very good. You're finding ways to lose. And right now, Sporting is not very good. And they're finding ways to give up goals, to lose, to take victories and turn them into draws, and they're playing terribly right now. And if that mentality is late in the game, you don't have the same focus, you don't have the same fight and effort, and that's what it's hard for me to say you don't have the same fight and effort and focus in every single one of these, because I don't think that was the case against St. Louis. That was one of them where they were, this has been an issue. We are going to lock down here late. And it was a clear that ended up going to, I think that was a little bit of bad luck, but those things happen. When it happens over and over and over again, it's hard to say that it's luck.
And soccer, and I blame soccer a lot in this too. It's set up. It's set up for a team to dominate a match and still tie or lose. I blame the entire sport.
Well, sometimes when you win,
Edward Soccer, whoever came up with this,
Jeff Football.
Jeff Football.
Jeff Football. The Chiefs and Ravens, Mick. What do you think of week number 1, Chiefs-Ravens rematch?
None
of
of
the
us
AFC
got it
Championship?
right. We all swung and missed. I think it might have been Curtis or Matt Derrick last night on Sunday Sound Off. They each listed like 3 teams. First of all, I'm like, hey, who are they going to play? And they're like, well, it could be the Saints, the Bucks, the Ravens. One of them said Ravens. And I mean, I'm like, guys, at some point there's only 8 teams, right? Are we going to cover all of them that they're playing at home? And 3 are in the division, and we've heard they're probably not going to do that. And so there are only 5 choices, and yet we swung and missed. On the NFL, we keep trying to find patterns with all sorts of things, and one of them is the season opener. Like the last 2 years, they have done AFC and NFC, right? Okay,
and
this I was on your page. That's got to be the Bucks. Bucks or Saints, but it ain't gonna be Saints. It's gonna be the Bucks. You know, the storylines there, up and coming team, and no, wrong. Last year I nailed it with the Miami Dolphins. Oh, no,
that was
I missed that one too. So yeah, we don't know half of what we think we know on that.
Speak for yourself, man.
Because, well, there's going to be, they're going to get good ratings. Doesn't matter. They could be playing Mill Valley High School. Doesn't matter.
That's right.
And no, they're going to get
They can get a team from Foxborough High School and get good ratings for that. Run it again, Belichick.
And so you're getting a playoff matchup right back at it. And so I'm all for it. I'm all for it, whoever. And you got to play them at some point. And might as well make it. I think it's advantage Chiefs. A, you're at home. B, you've got, I know they lost it last year. You have Andy Reid, who is still dominant in season openers, right? It's no secret he's dominant after bye weeks, and this is like, I don't know, 30 bye weeks between the last game, so there's no secret. The more time he has, the better he has at getting it done. And look, that was kind of a fluky Lions win. That was one of those games where the Chiefs played it close, and we're there to find the ways to win, and then off Kadarius Toney's hands, and
twice,
those mistakes can turn into a loss at some point.
And we're watching guys. We're paying attention and talking more about guys on the sideline.
Yeah.
Travis Kelce and Chris Jones.
Yeah.
We're talking about them throughout the game. Boy, it'd be nice if Kelce was out there. No Kelce. I mean, boy, Chris Jones. Way to go. Well, I don't know. Are they missing Chris Jones? I mean, they've been pretty good here defensively. Chris Jones. He's up there with all the jokes that were on Twitter.
Right. Well, and so it makes the Week 2 game big, right? So what is that? And kind of maybe hopefully that is another big game for the Chiefs. A tough contest where they're going to have 10 days to prepare for this game.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Adam Teicher on Tuesday, I asked him who he thought it was. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He named 7 different teams, which was
Were
great.
the Ravens even one?
Ravens were one of them. Yes, they were.
If somebody gets to like 9 or 10 teams, we know they're BS.
But he just said he's like the ones I can think of that might be. He ended up guessing the Chargers is what he went with Harbaugh and that stuff.
Every other year they play the Chargers.
Exactly, they played the Chargers the most
like,
to start the season, but he did mention Baltimore in there as well. And then Matt Derrick went Texans or Bucks. And he was over 2. I've said Ravens.
I think it was
K-Dog.
I think it was Kadog.
Kadog
last night who mentioned. I think he said Ravens or Bengals maybe.
Oof.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well.
And I was like, oh, Curtis. They're gonna save those matchups for later, obviously.
Dummy. I wish it was the Bengals, so we can have the joke of the Bengals will be at a stadium that, and they'll know what it's like to raise a banner. At a stadium that's happening. So instead,
I can do the same for the Ravens.
Instead,
I guess they've done it.
Right, but I just use the joke of it's nice that the NFL's putting Lamar Jackson in a stadium that'll know what it's like to raise a banner.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's close. Learn funny.
A lot of material.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We're going to be noodling all summer long to figure out the jokes.
Nikki Glazier working on my Twitter jokes.
Her
for
team.
The fall.
I have Jeff Ross.
We are working on roasting. Well, you know what?
You might be winning, but I'm winning in a different way.
In life. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. It is Learn Funniest Best here on a Monday, hanging out with Mick Schaefer, Jason Anderson, Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels. We had up until 2 o'clock. Learned Funniest Best from the weekend, what we learned, the funniest from the weekend, and the best from the weekend. What I learned from the weekend is that apparently it's not easy to touch home plate on a home run. Or
kids, there are kids.
It should be easy to touch home plate on a home run, but it's not a given.
Kids, it's a thing. Some kids, it's like, and like, okay, that one's going to JUCO. And one of my son did it.
He didn't touch home plate.
I yelled at him.
By the way, Dylan played JUCO, and he went, "What the?"
Yeah, sorry about that. Sorry,
Dylan just caught a stray right there.
Not even playing JUCO. It's just like that's where
fall cut.
Dylan caught a stray there. He's going to play JUCO baseball. I was like, "What the hell's wrong with JUCO baseball?" Furthering my athletic career.
It's a thing, though. Did your kid do it?
So no, Tarleton State versus Utah Valley.
Oh, okay.
Sergio Guerra. In the 6th inning, they're down 8-6 with 2 outs, mashes a home run, trots around, takes his time, gets up to home plate, does the, cross thing around his chest, kiss, point up, gives his teammates high fives, runs back to the dugout.
Never touches it.
He gets to the dugout, and so the camera is the dugout camera that's just down the dugout. So you see the players on top of the dugout leaning out over sort of the fencing, right? That's there, and so you see him coming in, and the guy on the end, so you can't see what's going on the field. The guy on the end goes, "Did he miss home plate? Did he touch home plate?" You could see him mouthing that. So not knowing what's going on the field, but he's now already in the dugout. So they do the whole on the mound, step off, throw home, step on home plate, boom, out. They go crazy, and the manager comes out, gets thrown out of the game. But they show the replay. And he was like a foot to the right of home plate.
Close.
Just walked and just a foot to the right, giving high fives. And the umpire was staring right at it.
A good ump?
And good on the umpire, not assuming that he's going to touch home plate. It's a home run. He stared at him the whole way, stepped, and then walked away. And the umpire just did one of those. And apparently the other team was like, or the catcher was like, hey.
Yeah.
He didn't.
Good catcher,
but
too.
they didn't want to be like, he didn't touch home plate. So then he comes back and was like, hey, he didn't touch home plate.
Aren't you... Maybe I'm wrong, but aren't you technically out if you don't touch home plate and just you're out of the...
You have to start heading back?
Heading back.
Right, so it's like, what's the rule? Like if you swing at a third strike and you start walking back to the dugout,
if you
and
give
it's
yourself
like, go
up,
run!
You're out. Yeah.
So you give yourself
so
up.
I thought he would have been out either way.
I think you have to appeal, though.
You still have to appeal?
You have to appeal.
It's the appeal, because like when someone doesn't tag up and they're already kind of past the whole play, everyone's in the dugout, they'll step off the mound, throw to the base that they're appealing for.
Yeah.
But then what would the rule be if he got halfway to the dugout and then turned around and touched home plate?
Well, that's what my kid did. He was celebrating, and we have video of it in the catcher's like looking at his manager, and I'm like, "Hey, to go touch home plate!" And so he went back and touched, and then the ump acknowledged that you touched it.
Oh, so he was called safe then?
Yeah, he was called safe.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
thank God because of his dad.
His dad's very smart, very astute dad. Never hit a home run himself.
I've never hit a home run myself.
Never hit one himself, but he knows.
But he can direct sports.
Right,
he directs his son to play sports.
I don't know how to do it, but I know what to do once I do it. 4 bases, first, second, third, home.
It's
That's
worse
a run.
than like dropping the football before the end zone, right?
At least you're running at full speed, right? And you're time.
I would say yes.
At that point, you're walking. At that point, you're walking. It's just a touching of it.
But why would you drop before?
At least you get your body into the end zone.
Why would you not just step right in
Both
the middle?
Yeah, right in the middle of home plate.
Both are dumb. Both are dumb. But this is dumber.
He missed it by so much.
It's Dumb and Dumber. This was the movie.
He missed it by so much that the camera angle to show that he missed it was from the first base dugout. And showed it, and there was so much dirt between his foot and home plate that you could see that he had missed it.
From that angle.
From that angle.
You didn't need the drone right above it.
No, you need the, Zapruder film. Like, was there like an inch there? No, it was so bad. That's what I learned, is that maybe it's not that easy. Sterling, what'd you learn?
I learned that people just love to hate.
Oh, yeah, well, there you go. Mick, what'd you learn?
Moving on, yeah. So you got on social media?
No, I saw my
what
first...
a dumb learned. So stupid.
Dumb, we had dumber, that's dumbest.
Yeah, it's dumbest learned ever, man.
Dumb and Dumber 2.
Anyway, learn to hate. People love to hate. What's that?
Because I saw my first Cybertruck today, the Tesla Cybertruck. I thought it was kind of cool. Like I didn't get this reaction where I'm seeing all over the X where
didn't
people are
immediately
like,
throw up?
"This is the grossest thing. I vomited the second I saw this. How could you eat?" I'm like, it's kind of cool. Like it's so different than anything you've ever
different.
seen. I get that people might not be your cup of tea.
No,
You
100
might-
grand would not be my
No,
cup of
but
tea
like,
for a vehicle.
but like the immediate, that's an atrocity. And I'm like, it's
I agree.
different. It's unique. I thought it was kind of cool. Like
Similar reaction when the Humvees came
Yeah.
out, right? And they
Yeah.
were the big rage for the. It divided people.
No, my son
But
thinks
they're
that's
wild.
like the coolest thing ever.
Like RoboCop.
Like he's just like, oh, look at that! It's so cool because it's very different. I mean,
Yeah,
it's got a
it's-
robotic feel. It's squared off, right? It's not like
So
this looks different.
I don't understand the amount of hate that it gets for seemingly no reason.
People love to hate, as you said.
Well,
They
it
hate
looks
the-
dumb. It deserves some hate.
They hate the
Absolutely.
creator of
just-
it as well. So.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
probably-
But like the absolute anger that it seems to.
It's really or there's
people
vitriol.
get
comes,
insist-
I am so mad about this.
They get incensed by it. Yeah.
Yes, this is terrible. I don't even care about the aurora borealis. If that thing's walking around and riding around out there, damn.
If it's
to
walking
hell with
around,
that.
I got questions. Then it really is.
Well, it's
Transformers.
2024. I mean, we should be.
We had
I
that
mean,
technology that is not unleashing.
Running Man was set in 2019.
We have the
So
technology.
let's. I mean, Running Man was like in 2019.
You've
Oh,
seen
it's so far away.
The timeline of all those futuristic movies and where they've landed. Most of them are before the year.
Before
Yes.
where we're at right now. All right, Mick, what'd you learn?
So I learned all the cool things that Apple has to find your earbuds. Right?
yeah.
Do you guys, you younger
My wife's
guys, might
got
know about this?
yes.
So I
Yeah.
was mowing the lawn and I ducked under a tree, came up a little too late. A branch just took the right earbud and launched it somewhere in the yard.
Whoa.
And so I looked for like 30 minutes with no help. I couldn't find it. I had no idea where it went in the yard. And so I was like, well, I'm gonna finish mowing, I guess. And so I finished mowing. Every time I would hit some mulch, I was like, God, I hope that's mulch. I hope that's mulch. And so then I find out on my phone they've got a deal. They can send a ping just to individual buds. And so I send it to the right earbud I got in the yard, and I'm hearing it ping. And I'm like, there it is. I go right to it. And like, oh, no, it's behind me. So I turn around. Like, no, it's to the left. I go to the left. I go to the right. It's never right where I think it is. And so I'm going mad for 30 minutes or so trying to find this thing. And I couldn't find it. I was like, everywhere I went, it would disappear. I was like a cat with the laser pointer, right?
It's actually the thing that you do to your friends with the cat noise.
Yeah.
underneath
It's
the bed.
exactly what
Wow,
it
I hope
was.
they were
I was
doing that
getting
to you.
paid back. So I'm like,
Pocket.
what's that?
Was it in your pocket?
That's what everybody asked. It was not. I tried that because I know how dumb
That
I
would've
am.
been awesome.
I know, right? And so I couldn't find it. So I go to work, and at work they tell me, some of the younger ones say they've got a magnetic thing on your phone that will find it. So I go back after the 6 o'clock for dinner, and I get my daughter out there, and we find the magnetic thing, and it says closer, farther away, closer, getting closer. And at one point we set it down. It says your earbud is right here. I'm like, I don't see it. I don't see it. So my daughter and I start clawing at the grass, they're pulling it up, and we can't find it. We're just crazed. We're like, this is unreal. We cannot find it. And so eventually I get a shovel out. I start digging up the yard like some drug addict, just an insane person. I'm like, it's like Telltale Heart at this point. I'm like, I've got to find this thing. And so we start playing music out of it. And we know the general area, and the music narrows it, and it's Beastie Boys Sabotage. And I put my ear to the ground, and I'm like, this thing couldn't be more clear if it was in my ear. It is under here. And so my daughter grabs a big old clump of dirt, and in it was the AirPod. I must have stepped on it or something because it was kind of muddy and buried it like an inch or two in the ground. But thanks to Apple and all their technology, I was able to find my right earbud.
How many holes are in your lawn now?
It looks like the movie Holes. Just in this little area, we
go
had 3 or
through.
4.
I thought maybe like you were going to say this rabbit ate it, and now you're chasing it.
Well,
like with
at
this
one
rabbit.
point, I'm
That'd
like,
be
okay, the
amazing.
casing must be gone because it's small, but it's not that small, and it's white against green grass. My grass wasn't that high, and I'm like, I guarantee you the casing's gone. I'm just hearing the little speaker or whatever, but no, it's still intact, and used it today. Thank you, Apple. Appreciate that.
Dylan, what'd you learn?
I learned that Chuck E. Cheese will phase out its endearing and nostalgia-inducing, if perhaps slightly creepy, animatronic band performances at all but 2
Take a hike
of the chain's locations
Which
in the United
two?
States.
Which two?
I have not looked that up. But
Alaska?
that is happening by the end of 2024.
Could be here,
Hopefully
guys.
Alaska.
Yeah, as
Could
long as they
be
don't
here.
get rid of Showbiz, then we're fine. As long as Showbiz Pizza stays around, I'm good with that. All right, we start with the funniest funniest from the weekend.
Seth Lugo's wife quote tweeting at the Royals saying, quote, if he's working out of town on Mother's Day, then he better work.
W-E-R-K. That was pretty good. I like her.
Unbelievable. That was so good.
So what the funniest from the weekend for me, there's an Iowa sportscaster in Cedar Rapids. Since July of 2023, the first word of every one of his broadcasts, whether it's in the field or in the studio, has been the lyrics to "We Will Rock You," and he finally got to the end of it and put it all together. So this is it.
Buddy, you're a boy. Make a big noise playing in the street. Gonna be a big man someday. You got mud on your face. You big disgrace. Kicking your can all over the place. Singing, we will rock you. We will rock you. Buddy, you're a young man.
So this goes for about a minute and a half. Well done. That's something I would have done like 20 years ago. Yeah, I felt very creative.
That's great. Dylan, funniest for you? That's awesome.
It was Chuck. I couldn't find the audio, but Chuck describing Arbor Day last night on Inside the NBA, if anyone was watching. It's a day that Snoop celebrates, is what he said. He didn't know what Arbor Day was, so they had to explain it to him. So Chuck is just the gift that keeps on giving this playoffs. So they need to sign with TNT.
Can he do all sports? He did the golf thing with Mahomes and Kelsey and was awesome.
I think he should.
Yeah.
I don't know why he doesn't.
He should.
He's better. The more he doesn't understand about the sport,
it's better.
The funnier
hockey.
he is.
Get him on hockey ASAP.
Yeah, oh my God.
They do. They kind of let him come into because TNT does NHL inside the NHL as well. So
oh, do they really?
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. I will take you to Saturday night, the bantamweight match with Dan Hennessy on the call. WBA bantamweight, the ring announcer Dan Hennessy. This was Trinica Johnson versus Nina Hughes, and Nina Hughes is the reigning champion. Trinica Johnson was the challenger in this one. Take a listen to what happened there after the fight.
Judge Keatley scores the competition 96-94, and Judge Nakamura scores the competition 98-92 for your winner by majority decision, and still the WBA Women's Bantamweight World Champion, Nina Hughes.
A lopsided scorecard of 98-92 favors Nina Hughes and pulls a majority decision to go to 7-0 and retain her world championship on a night where Trinica
Here we go. Listen to
Johnson
background.
seemed like she was in control
Listen to
down
background.
the stretch and had a 167 to 133
Fighters to the middle of the ring,
advantage.
please.
And by the way, Nakamura, who had that 98-92 scorecard, will be the referee for Lomachenko.
95-95. Keatley scores the competition 96-94. Nakamura 98-92 for your winner by majority. Fighting out of the blue corner.
He got the winner wrong.
Oh, it's like the Academy Awards.
Real?
Listen to Tessitore's guy.
Is this guy Lieutenant Dan Hennessy? For real.
For real.
They called him Lieutenant Dan. It was so bad that the referee started raising the hand of the girl that he did not announce and then stopped and was like, what? It was pretty obvious, yes. That was my funniest. Best, we start with you, Mick.
Best for me, Aiden Shaw. He only does with his NIL money, doesn't buy cars, doesn't Beats headphones. He gives out scholarships. And so on Thursday night, he was in Grain Valley giving out a scholarship.
awesome.
Not to athlete, a kid with good grades to go, I assume, to Mizzou. But that's what he does with his NIL money. So salute to you, Aiden Shaw. That's a really, really cool move. You got a fan for life here.
I love that. That's amazing. Dylan, your best from the weekend?
Tom Brady's resume, if you haven't seen it, go look it up. He had a bunch of different things that he was preparing for if he did not get drafted. It's just a really cool thing to look at. He's got a bunch of different things on there that are
three-time Super Bowl loser.
My best was, of course, Taylor Swift and the 87th show of the Eras Tour, rocking the red and gold outfit and blowing a kiss to Travis Kelce before she sings "So High School." Of course, that's the best from the weekend. Come on. Sterling?
Cute. No, Aiden Shaw, that is actually badass. Seth Lugo, 9 starts, 8 quality starts, 1.66 ERA in the year. Legit Cy Young talk after that 12 strikeout performance. Reagans couldn't get any strikeouts against the Angels. Then, of course, Seth Lugo's like, yeah, I'll go ahead and just put me down for a dozen. Give me a dozen, okay?
Came out for the 8th at like 100 pitches.
Yeah.
And still
just
came back.
nails.
We have Patrick Mahomes and Seth Lugo in town, guys.
Seth Lugo, Cy Young talk starts now.
Let's go.
More Zone next.
Maybe tomorrow too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You want to take tomorrow off
I got to
too?
do TV. I'm by myself today. There will be no sports.
What?
If I'm not there, we got to talk about the Chiefs opener.
Okay.
On KSHP 41.
That's right. Yes.
They want me in the 5 o'clock. You know, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
When they put you in the 5.
I'll give you Thursday off even. I'll do it. I'll do it.
Appreciate that.
Are you going to talk about NBC Universal Peacock getting a game on the 21st to put on internet only? Streaming on Peacock only?
We will absolutely be talking about that if that's confirmed. Is
it is pretty much confirmed that there's an extra day they'll be putting a stream
We're not radio. We have to confirm this stuff. We're not repeating rumors out there.
I only have 3 sources on this.
We need 10.
I trust none of them. They were all Mick Schaefer.
Yes.